Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the Luffy Fanfics, back with amazing fanfiction. This is the series of What If Overpower Luffy Awaken New Gear. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. The world of One Piece was changed. It all started with the person that was the farthest to be named the ultimate superpower of the world. The farthest from being feared is worse than even the Yonko. It all started when the pirate was the most open. A terrible confusion weakened his heart and the young adventurer for the first time felt lost. Betrayal. That was the best word to put it. The betrayal that burned his heart and made it fragile. Worse to him, a tragedy struck at the last nerve of Straw Hat Luffy and corrupted his will. His good soul vanished and something else took advantage. Luffy did not even realize he was gone as he transmuted into a new being. An essence turned into a monster, a devil fruit that evolved to a point that should have never been possible. Through a myriad of events, the hero became its villain and showed the people the true nightmare of someone who had lost hope, someone that let a monster crawl out from the dark. However, his Nakama never gave up. Even when he deserted them, they followed. When he attacked them and left them defeated, they denied his rancor and followed to help him. When he created his own army and new so-called Nakama, they still followed suit, not believing this was their former captain. When he aimed to control the world in the name of his loss and to never be weak by killing anyone who stood in his way, the Straw Hats were there to stop their captain from destroying himself and everyone else with him. Assembled into a great force, they defeated the Nightmare and regained their captain. In the end, on a war-torn world with the Marines obliterated and the pirates gone either from the living world or hiding under the terror of a tyrant's rule, the Straw Hats unknowingly gave way for a new nation that was able to take down the ranks of Luffy's vengeful battalion and turned him back the way he was, human. So this grand fleet became a new world superpower, even though he had committed crimes against humanity. They were forgiven as the culprit was not him but the side hidden within. Some disagreed. Others believed it as now he worked to protect the humans he once wanted to destroy alongside his Nakama. But with the dawn of a new world, from the old one remained the force of the world government, those of the noblest blood that still believed they should rule. The new nation led by former revolutionaries, pirates, friends that fought alongside the Straw Hats, and former Marines that wanted to unite the world into one called it Atlantis. They did not let them grow as they pleased, knowing they would try to enact their old ways of slavery, hierarchy, and corruption, fought back their forces. The Straw Hats joined and fought them as well until it was only a matter of time before they fell. The last push was on the new world. Luffy fought against this new government with everything he had, named One World Union, planning a strategic takedown once and for all by attacking their headquarters while deploying the final hit to overthrow the new Tenryubito, but an enemy commander, name undefined due to his devil fruit ability scrambling Luffy's head, gave the final hit before he died, causing a chain of events that resulted in sending Luffy to his childhood days after being handed the Straw Hat by his pirate idol Akagami Shanks with a power that was hidden from the world for a long time. This became a new beginning to undo the war-torn future. This is his new second chance. Luffy opened his eyes in shock, realizing that he had been fighting alongside his crew and it was already dusk, showing the sparkling horizon. It didn't add up and it soured his mouth. Panting from the exhaustion, he felt all laxed in a strange tranquility. Without his scars or anything he was wearing at the time, fighting with that time guy as he called him that he did not notice from the overwhelming doubts he had. What happened? Where am I? Guys, looking around where he laid, he saw the ocean in front with a forest behind, making him think of one place, Fuchsia Village. Standing up, Luffy noticed his height to be less than 3 feet. Beginning to inspect what was happening, looking to his hands and body proportions, he realized he was a kid once again. So I'm a child again, meaning that man, what's his name? Well, he sent me back using his time powers, sending me back, huh? At first he freaked out and began to overthink how to fix this. How can I go back? What can I do here? Think. Luffy sat down and remembered their meeting with his alliance before attacking Robin, said that the devil fruit he had was broken beyond belief, too powerful to even reverse its effects. Unwillingly he took in those words and gave up on returning back to his time. Then an idea ticked him. He thought to how he could change this when he realized the advantages of his time reroll. He grinned. I can once again train as well as save those who died. I can save Ace. I can change the history that has happened. Jumping in joy, throwing out the possibility to fix this trouble. I can be stronger for my friends, my family. Little Luffy went back thinking all he could do with his free time as a child. Perfect his moves and add new ones to make him unstoppable, even to the Gorosei that he had a hard time fighting one by one. Now he can grow strong enough to fight them all at once. He left the hill he was in and skipped back to Makino's bar to see them once again. His heart would burst in happiness from having this chance. No one had to die anymore. He will make sure of that. His new life began exactly like he remembered. Luffy did not change anything in his childhood, going through it like an exact replay. hiding his true powers from his brothers and family, waiting the day they parted so he could train with them, making himself look the weakest of the trio to not give them the hint of he being stronger. One day he had the chance to ask his grandpa for training on the 6 powers and haki, which was a million times worse compared to Raleigh's regiment doing all that in Marineford for a year to train the skills, which he did not tell Ace or Sabo, leaving them with doubts to what he did in that absence. History played as it had, training along his brothers, making the Sake Exchange, fighting Blue Jam, the Terminal Fire, Sabo's death, and Ace's departure to be a pirate to finally leave Luffy the remaining 3 years to perfect his ultimate moves. Each day he practiced all his forms, except for a certain gear he did not like to even mention, but eventually he knew that form must be practiced on. Damn, this young body causes me too much strain, giving me limited time. Let's try again. Luffy stood up straight to try again his forms. Gear second. Disappearing from the unbelievable speed, leaving a speed trail of pink red. He began to punch randomly with his jet moves, causing utter imploding of nature, leaving debris on his path, moving to another part of the island, having homemade targets deployed in masses. Gear third. Changing gears, he inflated his left arm, passing the air to his right, Gamu Gamu no giant pistol, hitting the dummies, which became nothing but flour dust, filling the impact crater, pushing with his giant arm to the left towards a boulder, Gamu Gamu no giant red hawk. The rock burst into flames, creating a massive mist of gray ash to burst the opposite side, hitting trees, igniting them, yet he disengaged the inflation to release the air in a compressed rocket towards the air, where he hardened his left arm with haki. Gear fourth. Pumping air to his arm, expanding his body altogether along, creating a red aura outlining his body that was being involved by haki that started to form the tattoos all around his body, completing the battle-ready transition. Boundman. Luffy was now feeling the strain of using consecutively the power-ups was not such a good idea. Yet due to him being 14 years old, it was very impressive. I have more control here than when I was in Rusukana. Even way better than fighting Mingo using elasticity to stay airborne. He began to charge up. Now, Luffy bounced off the air, heading closer to land, Gamu Gamu no, his fist retracting back, forming into a spring Kong gun. A Sea King surfaced to take a bite but was beheaded and turned into a red mush, staining the ocean near the island along, leaving a crater flooding in with the pushed out water filling in the Sea King's grave. Luffy flew at high speeds above miles of the velocity of Kizaru that he was proud of, but still would be nothing to someone like Akainu. He ignored the thought as he had another form he had to practice. He wasted no more time and put all of his might on the spring action to his legs, Gamu Gamu no Rhino Schneider. He left from human sight, just being a speck up above in the blue sky. Luffy deflated into his normal state, surfing upwards from the magnitude of the Schneider propulsion. Luffy crossed his arms into an X while taking in a breath, closing his eyes. Gear. Through his mind he remembered the flaws he had and those that he committed, the countless times he almost lost his friends at the hands of the Marines and pirates alike, the death of Ace. It all replayed like a twisted DVD that made him convulse in rage. Then it showed the biggest failure he had ever done in his life. The death of Ace. This automatically made him open his eyes, glowing an orange-red tint. Gear fifth. The words activated a silver-gray shockwave that stopped the channeled momentum, involving Luffy into a ball of steam that revolved in irregular steam current patterns. Awakening. The smoke sphere dissipated, showing a humanoid persona having obsidian haki-imbued limbs forming tribal tattoos. Haki outlined muscle, gray skin that resembled a corpse, an outlined dagger-like enclosing his eyes that glowed a menacing stare, and the straw hat changing color into jet black with its red ribbon pulsating a neon violet red. This phase is powerful, but in my present body condition I can't move or dodge, just block and attack, kinda like Minga, who could not dodge any of my attacks, only block with his awakened devil fruit ability. Descending down, he pointed to the island's collateral damage and flicked his hand, transforming them into giant rubber strands that were forming a hand to catch him from his descent. Okay, now he began to create an array of masses that stuck up the ground, forming clones of himself with just lifting an arm that began to form phalanx around the true Straw Hat captain, Rubber Ganger. Extending his arms, he shifted his head upwards. Kamikaze. The clones used soars spreading all over the sky, exploding one by one, forming back to its previous state of matter, leaving a mess all over the island, while the spot where Luffy stood remained in an orange rubber state with the falling pieces once again becoming the rebel they once were. Okay, I have complete control of Fifth's power, along with manipulating non-seeable places with my observation haki, allowing me to create sneak attacks and so much more. Still, it weakens me. Putting aside this thought, he reverted back to his normal self to start the least favorable and strongest technique that almost made him commit the worst crime any pirate could do: kill his own crew. That almost dominated the entire world in death. He truly despised the power-up so heartily that the thought that it still coursed in his veins sickened him. To put humanity aside and let the devil emerge using your body as a vessel while directing it with your will, I must stay inert within that horrendous form. You can do this, body. He sounded off, sending a giant spherical EMP field. Luffy struggled with this final transmutation to maintain one's humanity while becoming a monster. He visualized in his mind the mental break he suffered during his other timeline that shattered him into the beast dubbed Gear 6. With the memories flowing, the pain inside his mind opening terrible sealed scars of his past. Wrath overcame his senses and quickly felt the demon's aura increase its hack. He steadily opened his eyes bit by bit that glowed a crimson red with a beating black pupil that was outlined by haki, his hair changing to a dirty white, his clothes losing the vibrant colors to fade into worn-out garments. His body was soon being enveloped by rubber strands of his awakening ability, forming a 10-meter rippling monster with his form discolored ripped clothes resembling more like armor with protruding spikes suiting the monster, bulging limbs with veins spreading yellow neon blood, gray-black skin capable to tank cannons with ease, claws and talons capable to tear battleships in half with one sweep, jaws that enveloped half of his face that stayed in a lunatic grin spreading from ear to ear. Literally, and a spiked mask made from his hellish rubber flesh infused in haki that covered his upper half of his face, eyes and nose, with the eyes still glowing through the mask emitting a killer instinct of mayhem. Gear 6. This caused the whole area to quake, causing small tremors to hit neighboring islands, shook the island's mountain, and left secondary disasters out of his call, but it did not disturb the Fuchsia Island, showing the great control Luffy had in this colossus phase. Gamu Akuma. Animals ran as far as possible, leaving the weak ones open to predators, but even they, the hunters, ran alongside them, wanting to run away from that thing, never looking back. Luffy observed his surroundings in his new field of vision, then gazed at his monster hand. This form is pure evil. The devil fruit manifests itself to unleash massacre on the world. He speaks to me wanting freedom, but it's my body, buddy, so you better start listening to me. Speaking out loud in a booming demonic voice. He will listen or left prisoner inside me until I die. Everything he had in his arsenal stepped up by levels, including his haki sensing all of East Blue's auras. Then he sensed Makino coming his way a few meters away from the village while he stood on the opposite outer edge of the island. She's looking for me. Luffy transformed to meet her and prevent her from taking any other step in search for him, so that when he got there she jumped from the scare. Luffy, be careful next time you scare me. Luffy laughed a little. Sorry, so why did you call me? She looked happy at him. Dinner is ready. This fueled Luffy with enough strength to run to her tavern. Yahoo! Makino yelled at him to stop, but he can wait to eat. To the dinner table. The 3 years went faster than expected. Even thought it was all just a rerun for Luffy. He enjoyed his childhood and kept an eye out as he was watching his own growth in Fuchsia Village, but still as time affected his state and his powers, he found out that there was enough time to train his gears. Well, some of gears, and finally as he began to grow to an adolescent he slowly controlled the voice that prevented Luffy from using the abominable Gear 6 now available in full human autonomous control to any future rash emergency situations like facing against the admirals and beyond, but thanks to boring meditation and test runs, his body's potential was now at its fullest, ready to take on the Grand Line. However, before he set to the Grand Line, he had to gather the starting crew, leading to later on find the rest and create once again the infamous Straw Hat Pirates, his true treasure in the seas. The day came like a flicker, and the friends of Luffy were at the bay to wish him the best as he sailed to sea. Preparing to leave, Luffy waved goodbye to the Fuchsia village, the mayor, Makino, and Daden, plus the mountain bandits who took care of him with all of the above, shedding a few tears yet happy to know the kid was living to accomplish his dream. However, Daden and her gang still were hidden in the bushes just like last time so as to not cause a misunderstanding. Setting sail to the ocean to create the Straw Hat Pirates and experience new adventures, he recalled all his greatest times with his nakama. From the good to the worst of his memories, he laughed knowing this time around a lot of things would change. He was stronger, so fate had to literally face him, as he had the muscle to face anyone, which got him thinking what else could change this time around. His grin widened to the possibilities he could unlock. I can prepare more allies when the time comes to take down the world government and Eve. He was interrupted as a low growl vibrated to the top of the ocean. The raft shook when suddenly the resident village Sea King arose to take a bite out of the wobbling raft, pumping Luffy to use one of his strongest hits. The rubber man looked upon him and growled internally as he realized that this thing may be the resident monster, but he did not have any importance in protecting the village, so he could send it off, back to where it should be. He told himself and stomped the raft to a halt as he looked upon the beast with a hidden glare. Gear 4th, right arm, biting into his haki-hardened right forearm. It grew from the pumping air but remained solely in that arm, compressing itself to form the tribal tattoos on said limb, including the shading around Luffy's eyes that made the Sea King stare paralyzed by the humongous presence right into the eyes, the rubber human like a reindeer caught in headlights. Gamu Gamu no. Retracting his arm at hyper-reaction velocity like if time stopped, he aimed at the Sea King. Kong gun. He roared and struck the beast head-on. Its head got crushed, but the speed made it impossible for anyone to see the damage he caused as it flew away. The attack sent the monster airborne to another island, or possibly back to an island in the Grand Lake at incredible speeds up to the sky. As it came close back to a different landmass, the Mach speeds crash-landed it and tore the beast throughout the land as if he was crushed, where the remains just skidded in the water, finally submerging into the ocean where no one could see as it went beyond sight to any person to see. The vanishing monster that was sent packing left the whole Fuchsia villager's mouth agape through the monstrous feat Luffy did. "See you guys. I'll write letters if I can, later," he told them. He started rowing faster than they could make out, still not recovering from the surprising attack he performed on the Sea King. "Be careful," Luffy. Makino waved as she acted strong. He was like a child to her after all. She, along with the rest of the villagers, said their final farewells before going back to the town, resuming the day. Now all they had to do was wait and hear of the mischief that Luffy would certainly cause. Makino was more than ready, having bought a scrapbook so she could record all of the wanted posters for him and his friends that he will surely bring along to his adventures. Moments later, Luffy went through a whirlpool that destroyed the raft, making Luffy one more time go inside a barrel, waiting until one of Alvida's men picked the barrel out of the water, to which they did moments later, thinking it was a drift ration. Instead, the guy received a punch to the face, knocking the guy out, while Kobe watched Luffy just casually ask him where he was. Feeding Luffy from the storage food, they began talking about their dreams. "One day I wish to be a Marine Admiral to take down pirates, but instead I'm so weak I was forced to be a chore boy under Alvida's crew." Luffy heard more things he said that made him remember of the future he came from, having a flashback of how Vice Admiral Kobe, along other great Marine pirate friends, he had tried to stop his rampage from killing his crew. "Never again shall I lose my humanity to him, ever." Repressing the memory, "Then why don't you fight your way to be an admiral?" Kobe stared. "Don't stop because it seems impossible. Go for it. I'll be king of the pirates, and one day I will face Admiral Kobe. Promise me this and we will meet at the top." Kobe. To this, Kobe answered, "I will be a Marine Admiral." Cut short due to Alvida coming and hearing the whole thing. "Oh boy, this is boring," Luffy thought as once more he went through the motions, fighting her lackeys, showing them his basic moves, and defeating Alvida by sending her soaring above the sea towards a faraway island to where she would find her devil fruit. Going back to the story, the Marines were coming aboard the ship. "Oh no. If the Marines see me here, my dream will die before it even starts." Kobe panicked, running around in circles until Luffy grabbed him, putting themselves on an escape raft that splashed down where Nami was salvaging the treasure she had found to her boat, but feeling the splash from the other raft caused the young Nami to stare at Luffy. In this moment of time, Luffy felt the connection they had. As brief as it was and how sudden it happened, this little encounter sealed their fates together. Like a zing, it snared Luffy to Nami forever. "Nami, we will meet later on. This time my powers will be used to protect you, not harm you." He goofily smiled at her while grabbing the rowers to start rowing as fast as possible, heading to get the first mate, pirate hunter Roronoa Zoro. Heading out to sea, Luffy just drifted out into his subconscious while speeding the raft towards the marine base holding Zoro. As his first mate and tight-lipped man, Luffy struggled if to tell him the truth. Should he know the full story or wait till I get everyone to tell them in one go? His second in command was always serious, especially in keeping secrets. Yeah, why not? Plus, he needs to become stronger to be the greatest swordsman in the world. Luffy made that decision in a flash thanks to Kobe's yapping about being close, which he just bonked him on the head, earning weak yelps out of him. Going into town, they soon found the pirate hunter bound to a wooden post as if crucified, seeing the little girl being thrown over by the onion guy, hearing the story of how Zoro got into that mess, and finally the true intentions the Marines had in stock for the pirate hunter. "Yosh, then it's settled. Let's save Zoro so he can join me." Kobe wanted to object to the plan, but knowing him, he gave up on his explanation, heading to the marine base. Zoro, taking in the scorching heat of the sun, was deep in thought. "I'm sorry, Kuina." He heard footsteps coming towards him. His heart calmed down even further, sensing a familiar aura of death loom over him. "I guess this is it," Zoro grimly thought. Opening his eyes slowly, he was met by not what his gut told him. A young boy with a straw hat stood in front of him. This irritated the swordsman. "What the hell are you doing here?" Luffy just smiled at his serious, scared, funny reaction to his sudden appearance that brought him to relive moments they had together as pirates. "Hey Roronoa Zoro, I want you to join my crew." Zoro's sweat dropped. "No" at this creepy Luffy smile. "Oh, come on. We can follow our dreams as we like and drink sake without worry." Luffy attempted his first maneuver to convince Zoro. "I said no," the swordsman restated. Luffy pouted. "What about your dream? My guess is that you aim to be the greatest in swordsmanship, right? Then follow me and let's find our freedom in this world." Zoro this time spit at Luffy's feet. "Pirates are no good, stealers and murderers. I would never turn evil even if the world hated me. Plus, you are really asking me to become what J Hunt? What sense does that make?" Zoro explained, and made Luffy's face angry until he wore again his cocky grin. "Well, you must know I have reacquired 3 swords from the base, wanting to return them to its master. But if he doesn't want to join me, well..." Zoro was mouth-gapped through Luffy's method of recruitment. "I guess the swords are technically mine, so see." He ran a few feet from Zoro until he called him "you son of a gu," and Luffy just smiled, turning back to him. "Okay, then I join you, seeing the fact I have nowhere to go, plus I have a promise to make." "I join you, kid." Luffy just jumped in celebration. "Yosh, let me free you and let's go," freeing Zoro while Kobe watched while Luffy took in bullet shots that were returned to those who shot him, leaving Zoro dumbfounded. "How can you do that?" Luffy answered, "Because I'm a rubber man." Focusing back to the battle, the fighting duo began kicking marine asses left and right until Captain Morgan appeared facing off the pirates. Morgan was irritated that those under his command could not take down the prisoner and a weak-looking pirate, to which he learned the hard way they were not. Luffy tells Zoro to not move, instead to watch him fight. "You think you can beat me, wimp?" Luffy just prepared his arm, extending it to almost touch the far end of the wall, to which it was hardened. "Gamu Gamu no." The fist started to ignite, amusing everyone except Morgan, who was already charging head-on. Red Hawk. The strike got his abdomen, causing a fiery explosion to go off his back, sending him flying, knocking down Morgan and his statue. One hit and the marine was down for the count, earning cries of joy from those who watched. The villagers treated the pirates and Kobe with meals, thanking them for liberating the corrupted town with Morgan's rule. Zoro remained silent, looking at Luffy with suspicion. How strong is he? But was disturbed with a marine requesting them to leave the town in peace, in which Luffy agreed, making Zoro follow his captain when, "Hey, isn't he part of your crew?" The marine leader looked at Kobe, to which Luffy answered, "No, he's just a kid who followed me." Then Kobe added, "Sir, I want to join the Marines, as it has been my dream to be one since I was a kid." He saluted, facing the leader being talked to about turning down his request. "Please, sir, I want to uphold true justice to put scum like Morgan to pay for the consequences." To this the leader answered, "Very well then, but you gotta start from the bottom, as we all did." Kobe smiled, now officially being a Marine chore boy without needing to perform a needless fight like the other timeline, leaving towards a boat sent by the Marines who were waiting there to salute them off to a safe journey. "Damn, we saluted towards a starting pirate crew. For that we have 3 days without eating men." Kobe and the rest of the soldiers sounded off to the order given while seeing Luffy off. "I'll see you, Luffy, when I'm stronger." He made a promise to be stronger along Helmeppo to become one day his dream position. Luffy and Zoro headed to the next island that the captain knew what came up next. Off to the navigator, following the wind. Luffy knew he was heading the right direction to find his next nakama, focusing his mind on the trail rather on his stomach. He imagined Nami's young face in her matured version to soothe his rumbling gut, but he was hungry from the long time they had sailing the ocean with no sign of land, and it worsened while thinking about stupid seagulls and the giant-ass bird that this timeline did not appear. "How I wished to see that bastard bird," he drooled, imagining to eat the roasted bird by his Red Hawk. "A little bit more, just hold on." The young pirate yearned for some type of food, as he felt his body desire to eat itself, to have at least something to chew on. Zoro, on the other hand, was silent but not sleeping. He was observing his new captain and just had many questions to ask his new captain, who apparently can light up his arm in flames and cause one heck of a falcon punch. "Luffy, I wanna talk." To this, Luffy turned to the swordsman. "Okay, ask away." Zoro took in a breath, starting the conversation. "What the hell are you?" Zoro asked in a straight face. Luffy tilted his head and laughed. "I am a devil fruit user, a rubber human," Luffy goofily said. Zoro nodded, now somewhat believing in the devil fruits myth may not be tattletales. "Alright then, next question, how strong are you? Because I can tell you were just showing off that fire fist and dodging blades like a child on Christmas," Zoro asked, which met Luffy's fast answer. He looked at Zoro in dumb mode. "Okay." In a short, before going into specifics, "An admiral is nothing against me at full power." Zoro's jaw hit the floor of the raft. "What is that wrong?" Luffy said sarcastically to his amused friend. "No, it's just..." "Well, see if it's true," Zoro mumbled, and went to take a nap, which made Luffy laugh that he did not believe him, but continued the silent journey until they heard a bird above. Finally, "Food," Luffy screeched, and went for the flying meal, only to end up caught in the bird's beak, taking him closer to the village. Zoro freaked the fuck out and followed from the ocean, rowing like crazy, which later on he got help from guys of Buggy's crew that came from the water, thanks to none other than the infamous young Nami. Back on land, Luffy took down the bird by using Gear 3's Gamu Gamu no Fusen, which liberated him from the beak of said bird, then falling where Nami was running from the henchmen of Buggy that wanted to catch her or possibly kill her for taking the treasure map. Luffy made a small crater between them in, but like nothing he shrugged it off and jumped back up, stopping the small group of pirates and his future navigator. Luffy walked happily to Nami, which she took the opportunity to blame him. "Hey, thanks boss. Now take care of them." She posed like a fangirl while saying her thanks, then running away, leaving Luffy to face her persecutors. "She's running away." One of the thugs proclaimed, being elbowed by the one standing in the middle. "Don't matter, we have her boss right here." They began to take a step forward until Luffy used his Conqueror's Haki, knocking them down out cold. This is getting boring. This East Blue rumor of being the weakest is very true, but I want to go all out." He kicked his feet while pouting about the weak enemies he had to face when Nami appeared on a rooftop. "What did you do to them?" Looking at her, Luffy began to be flooded by guilt regarding his past life breakdown. Even here he still felt that little inching feeling to be by her. How did I ever let that thing hurt her? He began to clench his fist but snapped off it to answer Nami in less than a second after she asked. I just incapacitated them with haki. She absolutely did not understand a thing whatever. What are you doing here? Luffy tried to explain when his stomach grumbled, "Aw damn it, I'm hungry," holding his stomach and almost falling over from the weak state he was. Nami saw him hunch over from the apparent hunger he had. She felt that the right thing to do was to at least feed her savior who fell out of the sky. Follow me, I'll make you something to eat. Name, I'm Monkey D. Luffy and I'm going to be the Pirate King. His reply sent a huge haki wave that spread on the island, knocking out those weak-willed villagers but bringing a mad face to Nami. That comment did piss her off. I hate pirates. Pushing herself to the other wall to ignore Luffy. The captain left her be for a moment. Nami really is mean with pirates, isn't she? Well, whatever. When she is ready she will tell me. Now, he unknowingly started to look at her body still. You are quite Wait, stop looking. Mentally punching himself, he began to talk to her, putting away his perverted thoughts courtesy of Sanji. Why do you hate pirates? Just because most pirates do horrible things it isn't a reason to hate all pirates. Sadly, they make up the majority, but the stronger ones are the true pirates people should look up to. She stayed silent, hearing Luffy. Let me show you. Be our temporary navigator and experience the adventures we have. Nami turned into his direction with an intense hate in her eyes. I don't trust you. Why should I follow a pirate? Luffy was offended by the words but held strong. Because I can show you what life is meant to be, free from being enslaved from rules or people, to follow one's dream to the fullest. She grinned a little, thinking he was way too naive, but his speech did mellow the anger she had a minute ago. Okay, I guess I can get some help, can you? Luffy was not dumb and saw her mischievous face. He pouted, seeing the end of a rope sticking out of her hip. No, instead of being tied, I have a better plan. Nami jumped away from him, seeing her plan was visible to him. How did he know? Wah, I would never do such a thing like that. Nami bit her thumb and had a small blush to further amplify her cuteness and innocence. Luffy just looked dolefully. She puffed her cheek out in surrender, watching him be so serious. Okay, you win then. Luffy grinned again. So my plan is simple. Hide while I kick their butts, and once I'm done you can come to collect the treasures he has. So I ask you. Luffy shook himself clean. Wanna be my navigator for a while? Nami thought about it but decided sticking to him was better than being a lone wolf. Plus he did make sense if he was really as strong as he was implying. You got it. Slapping hands together, securing the bond. Before we go I gotta find Zoro. He's by Buggy's place here. Kneeling down to his right knee. Get on my back. Nami thought get on his back. With doubts about the pirate, judging him as an evil pirate teenager, she just threw those thoughts away and did what she was told. Hoisted up. Luffy stood up and secured her while opening the door of the building they were in, rocketing out to the roof of another building housing the buggy pirates, with Nami screaming all the way, getting their attention, plus Zoro's. The swordsman was relieved. There's that idiot. Hey Luff FY, he screamed to his descending captain. Yo, Zoro, we gotta fight this pirates. Without so much of a breath, Zoro took his 3 swords to begin fighting against them, while Luffy gave his straw hat to Nami to begin the pummeling. The pirates, much like last time, heard the arrival of the young Straw Hat pirates and presented themselves. Mostly Buggy, who bragged about who he was and the power of his buggy balls. After ticking the captain off, Luffy finally started the battle by doing a quick whip to the incoming lackeys. Zoro moved to face off against Kabaji plus some lackeys, while Luffy took on the clown captain and the animal tamer Moji, with the lion Richie by his side, but scared at just looking at Luffy. Sensing the powers of the pirate, let's see how strong Buggy really is, he began walking causally towards them. What is he doing? Doesn't he see the cannon? Nami was trying to get his attention, but he just ignored her. Come on, fire then, big nose. Buggy just exploded in rage. What do you say? How dare you? Fire the the bug GY ball. He ranted as he fumed at the name confusion. I knew thinking too hard on the name would later come haunt me. Luffy's companions cringed at the cannon being lit, but none of them could do anything, awaiting to see what he would do. Fire. The cannon shot the ball heading to Luffy, who just easily caught the muggy ball without stopping its momentum. He let it roll and started to spin the cannonball in his fingertips like a basketball. Nami and Zoro had their jaws on the ground. The buggy pirates were even worse, with sweat just peeling off them. Luffy laughed, and using Zoro he head towards Buggy. Here, have it back. Holding the cannonball in his hand, he threw the explosive straight into Buggy's face that had his tongue tied from the shocking strength, but suddenly felt the searing pain from a point-blank hit, sending him crashing down, leaving an impact crater along the astounded faces of everyone who watched. What? Luffy just laughed. You guys are fun to play with. He cheered and waited for Buggy to stand up, all bloody, weak from the hit he received. You, son of a... He never got to finish as Luffy released his Conqueror's haki, knocking out all the stragglers, Moji and Richie, while leaving Buggy even weaker, barely able to stand. This feeling feels very familiar, like when the captain fought. Buggy recalled that power but snapped out of it. Luffy waited until Buggy could stand up straight. Meanwhile, Nami stole their treasures in a drowsy, slow mood. Ugh, what did he do? I feel like crap. Drutting off the tiredness to continue stealing. Zoro, on the other hand, finished Kabaji a long time ago with his onigiri and went back to see his captain finish off the last standing enemy. I need to not mess with him or else, he said pridefully. He shivered thinking about his estimate he made about his strength. Buggy finally stood up upright with Luffy preparing his finishing move that both Zoro and Nami witnessed. Gamu Gamu no. Going gear second plus vulcanizing his extended arm as it coiled itself like a spring. Luffy's Nakama saw his limb turn an obsidian color rifle, spiraling to hit Buggy, which once it struck his gut it sounded off like a cannon, sending him flying away from the town off to the distance. They just stared dumbfounded and just accepted his strength gap. Nami, she looked at Luffy. Yes, you have the treasure. Nami nodded, in which Luffy grinned. Then it's off to the next island. Skipping back to the raft they had, Zoro met with Nami, to which he was forced to help with the bags, following Luffy until they were spotted by the villagers, whom asked them if they were pirate, to which Luffy stupidly answered yes, earning the wrath of the commoners, making the Straw Hats run all the way, escaping to the raft. Beforehand, while they were running, Luffy left a bag of money so the people could rebuild the torn-down village without Nami or Zoro noticing, from not wanting a beating from the money-loving navigator. Plus, I hope Nami believes in me when I tell her to trust me in beating Arlong. But I guess I need more demonstrations of my power to be 100% sure. He closed his eyes, humming Bink's sake all the way to the next village. The next day, while waiting to reach land with the Straw Hats all bored, until Nami got the courage to ask the man who had amazing, unbelievable strength, "Hey Luffy, can we talk?" she asked quietly. Luffy was whistling, on the other hand, getting sleepy due to food deprivation, but still managed to hear her. Yeah, Zoro closed in the conversation without being noticed, listening in while Nami asked the 1,000,000 question. How on earth can you do that stuff? You didn't even sweat taking that pirate out with your strange ability. How can you stretch like that? That made Luffy yawn a little. Okay, let me explain. Stretching his arms to sit up. When I was a kid, I ate by accident the Gamu Gamu no Mai from a pirate called Shanks. Both members who heard that very renowned name shivered in realization to what they thought it meant, but did not interrupt. The devil fruit made my whole body into rubber passively, meaning I don't need to activate it or something like that. It made me rubber for the rest of my life, period. Later on, I weaponized my powers at its maximum, making all kind of powers, including certain boosts that upgrade a certain aspect of my physique. Kinda like the steam that arose from me is called gear second, a process where I speed up my blood flow, going into hyperspeeds that I can't show you at full go because everyone's so weak in the blue sea. I can beat anyone easily in the place where we are now. Luffy saw his friends blinking in amusement to his high intellect description of his abilities. But Luffy, how did you catch flames? It was pretty cool if you taught me how to do that, Zoro butt in, making Nami shy a little from the East Blue Demon, who apparently was listening to the whole thing. She hated being ignorant to information. Luffy chuckled. Sorry Zoro, only through my gears and haki can you achieve the fire. Later on you will learn how to use haki and other methods to use fire techniques, which I'll explain later during an actual fight, okay? They nodded, seeing an annoyed look on the captain. Better let him think his previous thoughts, or else. Zoro took a nap, respecting Luffy's space, while Nami just looked at him in great awe. Can he? Maybe. No, he's a good guy. I won't let him be killed for someone else's problem. It's not his business but mine to fix. She repressed the idea to tell him the truth about her money-gathering wish, but the hero already seeing her trouble. Nami, please tell me or I'll have to force you to accept my help. He could clearly see her struggle but ignored that and went again through his thoughts, getting the important world-changing news of his time. As far as time goes, there's no sign of Blackbeard. Everything's normal until I defeat Crocodile, is when the tides change, setting off all kinds of changes. Luffy presumed, still feeling uneasy with the time flow. He had a sour taste that something would be off in this time. Just about he was going to try to get another nap. He then heard the voice of his final gear more clearer than the church bell on a Sunday. Find, kill, Crowhide. Luffy then stood up abruptly, suppressing a shudder from the negative side that wanted to be free to search for Blackbeard and kill him now. My friends come first. Do I make myself clear? You thing. The negative part of him just laughed, descending into Luffy's subconscious until the echo disappeared, setting him to a quick short nap. Moments later they were reaching the next island's shore. Luffy, wake up. We're here. He stood up faster than she expected him to respond. Yeah, adventure. Zoro woke up to his yelling, oi, let me sleep. He went back to sleep, causing Luffy to grab him by the shirt, throw him under the water and putting him back on the raft with one arm. Wake you P-Z-O-R-O. Luffy screamed to his face, making Nami laugh uncontrollably to Luffy's childish behavior, using a wake-up call that effective that it left a shivering Zoro dumbfounded. SSSSHHSS bastard, freezing from the water. He tried to hit him, but the air just made him wrap his arms around to get warm. After docking their raft, they looked around their surroundings, but hold it, they're pirates. They looked up to see Usopp standing in a power stance pose. This village is under my protection. If you don't leave at once, my 8,000 men will be forced to exile. Luffy ignored the rest, already knowing the lie he told almost every enemy they encounter. That brought him to realize how far he has changed throughout the time they spend as a crew, an everyday wannabe pirate lying coward that morphed into a legendary sniper pirate. A man he cut an arm off. Zooming out of his brain, he heard Nami guessing his number of crewmates. Once they were discovered, they ran, leaving Captain Usopp alone. Still, I will protect this island with or without lies. This is why Luffy respected him, because he knew the times to fight and flee, even though he had nothing to prove. Calm down, Usopp, son of Yasopp, am I right? He saw his startled look, knowing his father, making Luffy grin even farther. You know my dad. Luffy grinned, of course. He was with Shanks' crew in my hometown. From then on, Luffy and Usopp started forming a friendship to tale-telling, making the rest of his crew members see the dumb and fun side of their captain, joining in the conversation, making themselves acquainted in the village restaurant. There they had a good and great meal instead of semi-made fish they caught along the way. Now getting back to business, do you know where we can get a ship, Usopp? Nami slapped the desk and asked, receiving a nod from Usopp. No, we don't even have a decent harbor, as you have seen, Zoro interrupted, then pointed out to the White House on top of the hill before Usopp could explain. How about that mansion over at the top of TH, being cut short with Usopp's uneasy reaction. No, don't go there. Sorry guys, I gotta be somewhere. The bill is on me. He skidded off to the door, going out the restaurant, from which moments later the kids from Usopp's crew returned, seeing the pirates sitting down and a really fat Luffy commenting on the food quality. Were the Usopp pirates? What have you done to him? They yelled while holding fake knives, when suddenly they got a frightening conclusion. So good, said Luffy, tapping his bloated stomach, scaring the kids further. Your captain, Zoro whispered, was eaten. The kids, upon hearing this, started screaming, turning slowly to Nami. Why are you looking at me? Nami yelled, earning laughs from Luffy and Zoro about the kids' reaction towards Nami, hitting both behind the back of the head to shut them up. A while later, heading towards the mansion, Luffy propelled his crewmates with a Gamu Gamu no rocket, landing them straight on the roof, earning a scream from Kaya and Usopp for the sudden inbreak of random people. Usopp, who are they? Kaya pointed towards them, looking at Usopp. They are some friends I met. Following the mainstream timeline, the group talked about getting help to have a ship, meeting the butler Kuro. Luffy cursed that name, but yet felt he owed the guy. Getting kicked out of the mansion, Usopp stating his dream, and finally learn about the truth of Kuro, who planned to take out Kaya to achieve her fortune, wanting to live a normal life out of piracy that Luffy heard hidden in the bushes, to which he told everyone in his crew, prompting them to plan out the attack. But this time around he made them put the traps in the right side of the island to affect the pirates, plus Luffy was not going to help under any circumstance unless a real emergency happened. Setting the battlefield, Zoro took this time they had of use, wanting to talk to Luffy. Hey captain, so what else can you do aside exploding into flames? Usopp took note on this, explode into flames. On the other hand, Nami too was interested in this man's potential that could help her someday. Possibly, maybe. Luffy yawned from the boringness of preparing a plan and was glad Zoro changed the subject. Well, setting aside my devil fruit, I have mastery over the 6 powers and the admirable 3 types of haki, being Kenban Shoko, Busa Shoko, and the ultimate gifted Heishoko haki that 1 in a million can have. Once he finished, his crew had a puzzled look to not understand one thing. He said, better yet, let me show you. First the 6 powers. Luffy then waved his nakama to make space, giving him a good chunk of space. Let's start with Jeppu. Looking at him, he just took off to the air, using his feet, pushing one over the other, leaving his crew silent. Zoro, he disappeared, appearing in multiple places looking like many clones of Luffy. How are you doing this? Nami screamed at him, while Usopp and Zoro just stared, amazed or taken over by the awesomeness Luffy displayed. So cool, Usopp thought, seeing the so-called Zoro. Rankyaku, they saw him kicking, forming a wind gust that cut an acre of trees, while at the same time he sent a second hit, returning back similar to a boomerang to himself. Tekai, the air blade kick shattered instead of cutting him, earning yelps from those watching, but Luffy continued. Shigen, forming a pistol with his fingers, he began to puncture the rocky ground, leaving mole-size holes which unleashed a high-pressure sharpened rocks, pushing both Luffy and the debris upwards with imminent possibility to hit him point blank. Kami-Ia's body inexplicably became freelance, with the propelling rocks just passing by him thanks to his body just swaying out of the way. That amused the Straw Hats to see the captain perform unbelievable techniques, but it was still not over. Those are the 6 powers capable of taking down without a sweat any person with a bounty higher than 100 million. This fact left the crewmates unresponsive, especially Nami. He really can beat Arlong. She was getting troubled if she should tell him or not, but Luffy grabbed all of their attention by mentioning another skill set. This, however, is the ultimate basis to beat up guys in the new world. Watch as Zoro tries to hit me. His first mate, receiving the clue, swung a fist to his right that Luffy had already yelled out the incoming attack. It came from his right fist, trying to hit his right side face, and again till Zoro got tired, with the rest understanding the meaning of said power, with Luffy calling out every swing the swordsman made. Now Busashoku, he pushed his arms to the side while stomping the floor in one motion, making a cracked web on the semi-rocky landscape. He was standing on full-body armament at this. His whole persona, including his clothing, got turned into an obsidian black, scaring Usopp but getting an amused look from his other friends. The last one is reserved until I get a good bunch of weaklings. Be patient, nodding, taking in the display of powers the captain had. Putting that aside, they began thinking what would happen tomorrow as Luffy just slept in the blooming night. The next morning came and went in a flash as the time for fighting came as the Black Cat pirates appeared in the horizon, finally landing in the beach. Men, go take down this village in the name of Captain Kuro, bellowed Django, hearing the approval of his men through a battle cry, running upwards until the traps started to hit the invading force. What are you doing, idiots? Django failed to notice the people on top of the hill. Who the hell are you? To this, Luffy laughed. We're the defenders of this village. Usopp took on the rest, leave or face the consequences. The pirates laughed, heading upwards to kill them, only to be pushed back by the traps of Usopp design. Okay guys, go take them down, Luffy said while sitting down watching the pathetic pirates that brought the unsettled looks on Nami and Usopp, while Zoro just smirked to Luffy's plan. What do you think you're doing? You must fight, Nami just yelled, to which Luffy had a serious look on his face. In order for you all to be stronger, you have to fight to be better. They all looked at him in a dumb stare except Zoro. I am strong, but facing weaklings every day is well tiring, so I'll help if you need help. But for now I want to see your skills. The Straw Hats stopped wasting time heading to the fight. Luffy watched as Nami began to strike each pirate seesaw while holding ground. She needs to learn how to use Haki, and she would be greater in combat, seeing her curves all of the sudden making him slap the creeping naughty ideas. I miss mature Nami. Especia, damn it, mind. He looked elsewhere, seeing Usopp snipping the approaching pirates, falling back into the tar pit among other weird traps his companions placed. Meanwhile, Zoro just cut them, falling unconscious, or ran back to square one. That angered the swordsmen for the cowardness they showed. Fight back, you wusses. Luffy chuckled, seeing his teammates win, taking notice that they are all strong enough to beat a large pirate crew. But alas, Django began to use his hypnosis to give his lackeys the inhuman strength to which they displayed, with one of them destroying the rock ledge of the bottom hill. WOAH, they destroyed pure rock. Usopp freaked. The mob headed for the Straw Hats that readied their weapons until Luffy stood in front of them. Now you may need my help here. They looked at him strange. What are you doing? We are in a plain battle out here. Nami kept on rambling about his simple-minded attitude to the fact a stampeding group of killers were getting closer to them. Now I'll show you the third, a special type of Haki. Zoro and Usopp lowered their weapons to see what he was about to do, while Nami still was jumping from anger against his relaxed antics. A few meters away, Luffy summoned his Conqueror's Haki that sent the pirates flying, knocked out into the bottom of the hill, with others crashing in the ship at high speeds. But the most amazing thing was even the land was cracked along the ship, suffering damage that left the ship in a semi-bad condition that scared his Nakama from the ultimate move Luffy had under his sleeve. WWH, what did you do? Usopp was beritten in awe to the potential such a playful childlike pirate possessed with a blue face. Nami silenced her yapping, and Zoro was proud to follow such a powerful captain. That, my friends, is the will I have within me that's capable to do this and a bunch more if I applied it completely. Not even fishmen can hold against my power. Nami now truly believed he could take down Arlong. Can he do it? The Black Cat pirates were down for the count, only leaving the vice captain standing in his two weak legs. What the hell is he? He thought while trying to hold the ground. He stood. Niab and brothers, come forward. Two cat men appeared out of the ship, taking in a duo pose. Zoro, fight them. Don't hold back. Roger, Captain. He went all out with his three-sword style, lasting about 10 minutes intertwined in the struggle, until finally Zoro cut them down using his 3000 world move, almost killing them but subduing them indefinitely. Good job, Zoro. Luffy howled while Django couldn't believe the loss they have gotten from mere kids. This can't be happening. Trying to stand up upright, he got the biggest surprise of his life, seeing the captain in an enraged face on the hill. What the hell is this? Seeing his crew obliterated by a group of teenagers, he warned his crew to stand up or die along the enemy, but of course they were all knocked out, leaving the pirate no choice, starting his move. Fine, then die with them. Cat out of the bag attack. He swiftly disappeared, slashing randomly at everything, including his crewmates. Seems the attack is fast, but without his ability to see where to hit, it's pretty useless. Luffy strategized a way to use his gear second without being noticed, for Kaya was running now towards the battlefield, followed by Usopp's crew. Kuro was a foot from cutting her. Gear second spewing steam, he uppercutted Kuro, sending him sky high with the impact, pushing Kaya and her little guardians away from the air pressure build-up. Minutes later, Kuro landed near them, all bloodied, with Kaya cursing his name. Why did you do this? My parents brought you in and you wanted to kill me. Why? Why? She kept going as tears stained her pink cheeks. Emotions were rumbling inside her mind that gave her mixed sour feelings to the young mistress. Kaya kept shouting at Kuro, who was bleeding and glaring at her, until she went to hug Usopp to stop her sorrow, earning a whistle from the watching swordsman and a grin from Nami while Luffy walked towards Kuro. You, kid, will pay for this. Being held by the throat in one arm, he spewed blood, bringing the attention of everyone. Don't ever come back here. At this moment Luffy twitched horribly that began sweeping some madness that only Kuro and Kaya felt, seeing the face distortion Luffy had, revealing the grinning demon of Gear 6th alter ego understood. A black mosaic showed 2 hollow eyes and a maverick grin shined bright red. Feeling terror of the devil side, Kuro nodded and a second later was sent flying crashing into his ship. Kaya and the children were scared to see Luffy's inhuman throw, leaving them in a shock until Luffy came walking towards them, making Kaya hug harder Usopp's arm. Shivering from the presence of the man who beat Kuro, Luffy felt distrusted and dirty, having her stare in a scared jitter, but knew she was a forgiving person. Plus he meant what he was about to say. Kaya, I will never hurt the friends of Usopp or anyone who doesn't deserve it. Luffy said it in happiest face he could pull, watching the shivering lady, but she still held to Usopp until she got the courage to open her eyes, gazing at the friendly face of Luffy that instantaneously calmed her down, seeing the real person he was, not the beast who showed a terrifying happiness by pummeling Kuro. What's your name? Tenderly she asked. I'm Monkey D. Luffy, and I will become the king of the pirates. WOOO. His jolly attitude cheered everyone up in an instant, receiving a hero's welcoming by Kaya, and time flowed like it happened in the last timeline. Having a night's sleep in the mansion, everyone left to sleep with the exception of a sleepless Luffy that sat on the roof sweating profusely from a nightmare he had, a terrible nightmare that almost came reality in his timeline. I won't lose myself again to that thing. Shaking the reality of said dream, he thought about Nami, her personality, and how he grew very attached to her. He found her as a great friend until one day he noticed her curves, hair, and smile that warmed his heart, that then began to tickle, pinch, swell, and then beat in his heart just by having her look at him, a happiness he could not describe that started to fill him. Even today he can't explain in words how he feels about her. This then sparked another thought. Please Nami, believe in me. Luffy pleaded to the heavens she would trust him to take down Arlong. He really wanted her to trust him to set her free. He mumbled a little and felt butterflies in his mind thinking about her, until scratching laughter split his imagination. Pathetic, you are human scum. He kept boasting that inhumane laugh that Luffy suppressed with the fond memories he had with his crew, the adventures, those who became friends along the way. You're wrong, the monster stopped laughing. I am the strong one. You are the one trying to control my body to kill my friends in this world. I'll never let you hurt them ever again. Closing the beast inside his mind, finally allowing the sleep to sweep in. Nami's POV. I was sleeping in peace for a good 30 minutes until the snores came in from the other rooms, waking me up abruptly, trying to silence those horrible snores. Like, God, really? How can someone snore like that and still sleep? Time went on with me pushing pillows to my face when I heard weird animal growls that chilled me to the bone, making me curious to what could make such noises. Searching for the sound, it brought me to the roof where I found Luffy twitching a little. Luffy, I spoke as quietly as I could, but had a better idea to creep to the other side to see his face. I wish I hadn't. Expecting him asleep, I saw him grinning extremely creepy that it stretched from ear to ear, revealing white teeth and bloody gums. Way too bloody, as if he had been smiling too long. I grew worried, but before I could shake him, kill, KKILLL, he chanted this word eerily. Then I stepped back, but accidentally snapping a dry leaf, making Luffy snap his neck that showed crimson red eyes. What the fuck? I yelled at myself and fell to my butt in fear. He was still smiling. He then scratched the deck, making a deep claw mark on the wood. That made me take off to the stairs, almost making it, when I bumped into Luffy. I screamed when he grabbed me by the shoulders. Nami, what's wrong? Looking up, he had his child worry look that made me so relieved I just hugged him as strong as possible. That's my question, dumbbath. You were. I looked back and saw the all-ace he was laid out at, to find nothing but his straw hat sitting there. I was stumped. Did I sleepwalk? How did that claw mark disappear that fast? Luffy snapped his fingers. Oi Nami, Pirate King needs navigator coming. Pew pew. Yeah, just getting some fresh air. I found you here too. So why did you sleep here? I asked, intrigued. Just staring at the night. Spit. Gah. Sorry, something stuck in my mouth. I looked at him, spit something out, but ignoring it for now. I then told him to go to bed. On receiving a nod, I headed to my bed until Luffy called me. Yes. If you need help with anything, please tell me tomorrow, can you? He caught me off guard, but I nodded. Okay, see you tomorrow. He jumped off the roof where I heard the tree branches of my tangerines push Luffy to crash on the deck. Ouch, I laughed at his lame reaction, leaving the roof off to sleep. After the morning breakfast that Kaya prepared for the saviors of the villager, she presented them the ship who would be their greatest nakama, the Going Merry. The reactions of the Straw Hats was gratitude towards the one who gave them the ship, but to Luffy, seeing a long-lost friend was more than he could bear, that he ran up to the ship, grabbing it in an absolute stronghold. Very, we can sail once more. He excitedly remembered his adventures with the crew on board the Going Merry, shedding non-visible tears, while Kaya informed the Straw Hats about the ship's design and among other stuff, but Luffy did not care the least bit for Merry, as he called it, for it was here now. With everything set, they were now preparing to leave the island until a rolling sound was heard. Help me. It was Usopp who was rolling downhill towards the Merry, which Zoro and Luffy stopped without a sweat. Thanks guys. Well, I'll be hopefully seeing you all soon out there in the Grand Mine. He exclaimed that made Luffy tilt his head. What are you talking about? Usopp laughed. I'm going out there to become a real pirate. And if we meet again we shall tell each other our adventures. Luffy stared at him with a grin and Zoro answered for him. Shut up and get on board, he commanded, with Usopp not believing his words until he jumped to the ship with excitement. I'm the captain. Luffy shark-faced him while muttering he had to beat him first, and the other Straw Hats just looked as Luffy and Usopp chanted, sang stupid little rhythms while dancing in synchronization that made them all laugh in their celebration party of having a new member on board the new official Straw Hat ship. Heading out to the seas, the group made the final touches, forming the Straw Hat ship all complete with its signature Jolly Roger flags. After that they just did their daily routine, with Luffy playing with Usopp some games, Zoro training, and Nami drawing her maps in absolute silence while capturing the full imagery of the island they passed into the papers laid on her desk. This resumed until she got tired of mapping, so she went outside to notice it was already time for the sun to go down so night can appear. Nami walked to the front in Mary's deck, seeing the pink-purple sky that made her think of Bellamy. Holding in those memories to no success, it just made her shed tears that slid off her right cheek, descending to the deck. I can't let myself be entangled with emotions. Right now I must find the remaining money and free my village. I will free them all. For you, Bellamere. The tears made their going to hit the deck, when a hand catched the falling drops, holding them clutched in Luffy's hand. She realized something wrong. Wait. Luffy. Stepping back 2 steps from the surprise of having his captain catch her in a moment of weakness. Nami. He had a serious stare that reflected his worry. Tell me what's wrong, he said with a serious tone not visible to her because his straw hat covered his eyes. She was troubled and her brain was out of options to lie to her captain, but before that, he cut her short by holding her hand as a motion to tell her to stop talking. Don't lie to me. These words made her a little uneasy that a once childlike man could muster this unholy persona in his words. Nami tried to still hold to the poker face she had, but it ultimately came crashing down in a fit of tears that couldn't be stopped. To this, Luffy was feeling his inner demon thrash in his mind, wanting to go to kill Arlong. If you won't tell me, then I will discover it on my own, pretending to have psychic-like powers. He held onto Nami by the shoulders, looking straight at her eyes, that even if he indeed had that ability, he already knew her childhood history under Arlong. You are a slave to a pirate by the name of Arlong, captain of the Arlong Pirates, with a measly bounty of 20 million that took over your hometown years ago, and now that you almost collected the 100 million to buy your village from his hands, you plan to take this ship and its leftover riches to obtain their freedom. But let me tell you, even if you do this, Arlong will not let you go, and will even go as far as to kill them if you present them with this money. Luffy finished. Seeing the pale white face Nami had from this huge revelation, he already knew. She was unresponsive. How? He shushed her. That doesn't matter. You have 2 options. 1, you let me kick Arlong's ass for you, or 2, I'll tie you down and still kick his ass for you. So tell me what it will be, he said in slight anger, like a child who had enough of being teased. This troubled Nami. She did not want him to risk his life. Why do you want to help me? We met barely days ago, and now you want to go kill yourself with my nightmare. No, I will never let anyone die because of my fault. Not again. Ever again. Luffy got angry and began to clatter his teeth, both because of how she viewed him as someone who would fall to his fishman feet, and the fact she is led to believe that Arlong is invincible. Nami, believe in me, got him it. He stomped his foot, rocking the ship, making Nami lose her balance and wake up the guys from their sleep. I will never fall until I know every single one of my Nakama are okay and that their problems are gone. When I invited you, I made your problems mine, so please tell me what I want to hear. I will take him down. You, here, Luffy told Nami, who almost fell back first until he catched her pleading to have faith in him, in which she did. His conviction opened a tiny little crack on her fear, and bravery gave her the words to plead for salvation. She had tears forming on already, and the moment he was waiting. Luffy, please take down Arlong. Free my village, I beg of you. Covering her face with her arms once she finished, she looked like a child afraid to face the dark. It tore Luffy to watch her unconsciously plead. Like last time, without a word, Luffy carried her bridal style and jumped to great heights to the starry night that forced Nami to look at her surroundings instead at her fear. Finding herself suspended in the air, with Luffy leaving the rest of the crewmates to look around the Mary for an explication to the sudden movement, giving up, finding nothing at all, and went to sleep again. Oi, where's Nami? Usopp said. He was the one who got a suspicion clue but did not bother to look and went to sleep. Up above, Luffy settled in the air. You are my star. From all of my Nakama comes my power. Just like a star radiates heat to its orbiting planets and gives it life, you all give me the power to fight. Amazingly, Nami never felt the pull of gravity thanks to Luffy's slow rhythmic jeppu that started to set them down to the ship one step at a time. If someone hurts you, I will beat the crap out of them, no matter who it is, because seeing you smile makes me smile. Touching her cheek, Nami felt a huge wave of relief and happiness that this idiot of who knows where just told her the greatest thing she could ever wish for. As the stress of her life swept out of her, she unexpectedly fell to sleep in his arms, which he used Zoro to set her down on her bed. Settling her hair to tack her one last time look at the frown turned into a smile, and went outside to stay up looking over the ship in the now blissful night. In the morning later they had finally arrived, seeing the floating restaurant, along carrying the duo bounty hunters Johnny and Yosaku, but Luffy didn't act so childly around them like last time, just getting to know them, knowing the fact they will not be staying with them for long. Still, they received him like a brother. Time to recruit Sanji, Luffy thought as they went to the motions again, seeing the jerk full body get the sheet kicked out of him, meeting Sanji, getting a free meal thanks to Nami's charms, and above all bugging him while being a chore boy in the ship for accidentally destroying property of the ship. Come on Sanji, join me. No, I need to prove Zeph that I'm a chef before I ever leave this place. He repeated his answer for the 14th time to the annoying kid that wanted him to be a pirate. Among all things he could have said, he wanted that. Sanji wasn't willing to fight tooth and nail for some kid pirate. Not in a million years. An hour went by until a dirty man entered. Jin, the name Luffy memorized as a person who could be a great pirate captain if he was not part of the Krieg pirates. He begged to be fed from anything they could give, including scraps, but Sanji gave him a full plate, to which the man ate in gratitude, leaving in peace after finishing said meal. Seconds later Jin came in carrying the pirate Don Krieg that pleaded to be fed. That ungrateful bastard. Luffy knew what was coming next, that in a rapid succession once the meal was given to the pirate he went berserk, having been refueled by the food he desperately needed, starting to ramble about taking over the place to make it his new ship. Before the goofball of a pirate did anything more annoying, Luffy punched him out of the restaurant in raging Krieg. The cocky pirate was infuriated as he recovered from being sent through the doors like some low-life customer. How dare you even hit me? Be gone. Men attacked the ship. His crew began to attack the restaurant, facing off with the cooks and the Straw Hats, including the bounty hunters plus the newly dressed Nami. Luffy took notice that in this timeline she stayed to fight, not to fool the duo to take the ship and head to Kakoyashi village. Thank you Nami, he thought to himself while watching the enemy group being defeated by the minute, with Zoro slashing, Sanji kicking, the cooks pummeling, and many other unique forms of pain-inducing attacks that Luffy was proud to not be part of, seeing Krieg doing the same thing. Krieg, how about we settle this captain versus captain? You have guts to dare me to a fight, he growled while seeing Luffy in midair ready to punch him in the face, making Krieg raise his weapons against Luffy when his ship was rocked by something. Too late he noticed his ship cut in half by the infamous warlord, Dracula Mihawk. Zoro yelled to a mist that dissipated to reveal the greatest swordsman in the world on a custom black coffin ship. Learn from your mistakes, Zoro, Luffy murmured under his breath, seeing him charge towards an inevitable defeat. The warlord was in no good mood thanks to the useless and loud Krieg pirates that awoke him from his nap. One he had to deeply try to get, and it was torn like paper. He looked up to the ship inside and bored accomplishment found it. Why you two? He stood up and undusted his pants to begin the slashing of Krieg's fleet, which ended with almost taking out every single ship except the one holding the captain, until now that it laid cut in half. Such a good time waster, he concluded as his boat sailed across the ocean into the bunch of surviving pirates who were petrified of the warlord. Mihawk, a commanding shout brought the attention of the mighty swordsman. My name is Roronoa Zoro. I challenge you to a duel. Mihawk wasn't very pleased to hear this from a weakling swordsman and sighed. One more nuisance. I accept. Leaping to a floating wood platform that once was a ship, Zoro followed his rival, preparing his Santoryu that many of the people present recognized as the unmistakable pirate hunter of the Blue Sea. They talked and rambled, but Zoro kept his gaze on the greatest of the world. Mihawk, on the other hand, was grabbing his cross necklace to reveal a small knife. Sorry, I have no smaller blade than this. Zoro got enraged at his mockery of him, outright outrage as to the insinuation to use a kid's knife. You'll need more than that to beat me. Gliding to the opponent, Mihawk prepared his stance. I don't think so. Mumbling these words, Zoro gave the first attack. Only at 1 feet away he saw Mihawk unfazed. Jiri. In one swift motion he stopped his swords at the center of the attack that shocked Zoro. Impossible. No, I can't be this far away from the greatest swordsman in the world. Desperately he pushed against the opposing knife, but no matter what amount of strength it did not even inch back a bit. Impossible. That attack never failed. Big bro Zoro, take him out. The gap between us can't be this great. Zoro fought this conclusion as he began to relentlessly strike at Mihawk, with him just parrying or blocking the attacks he sent. You have a lot to learn before fighting me, kid. This only enraged the young swordsman that began to retaliate in a blind rage. The situation grew desperate, and even non-swordmen could have seen the winner of this battle a mile afar. Fool, Mihawk thought as he pierced the man above the heart. He expected the fool to stumble or fall back, Yet he did not move or stepped out of the stab. Luffy and the others tried to yell at him for being stupid, not dodging the attacks nor keeping a clear head, but inside Luffy's head he knew what would happen next, so he was clear-headed. Or did he? What if Luffy thought of the alternate theory he has seen in this timeline? Zoro dies. He brainstormed the dark idea and tried to not think. Why are you not retreating from my blade? Mihawk asked to the strange behavior the opponent had. His opponent was close to dropping dead to the floor. Still he kept sturdy, because if I backed out, then a promise I made will be for nothing, as well as any other thing that has brought me here to face you would end up in ruin, Zoro blurted out as the knife was pulled out of his wound. This act brought new interest to Mihawk. He sheathed the little knife and viewed that naive man with different eyes. State your name. I'm Roronoa Zoro, Zoro stated to his rival as he prepared one last move. He motioned his swords to form the secret technique, a move that never failed, all or nothing. I, Dracula Mihawk, will use this black blade to cut you down. You have proven to be a worthy opponent deserving of a true swordsman's strike. They both prepared for the final clash. Santori Aogi Zoro formed with his swords in a triangle and began spinning the two blades in his hands, making them like a saw. Mihawk waited, no longer dashing to Zoro with his yore ready to slash. Senzen Senkai. Zoro's hit was barely capable to get him to move one step before Mihawk crossed him all the way. His attack was useless as he took in the whole strike of the black blade. In an instant his two katanas shattered while his white one remained intact. Mihawk's basic slash obliterated one of the strongest attacks of Roronoa Zoro. Mihawk turned back to see Zoro placing his remaining sword in its sheath in honor, admitting defeat as he then swiftly turned to face him in open arms. What is the meaning of this? Mihawk exclaimed to the defeated opponent in surprise. What was he thinking? A slash to the back is a swordsman's greatest shame. Zoro smiled, with Mihawk admiring his potential. Well said, he smirked, and silently cunning gave one final slash, cutting him vertically, spilling a liter of Zoro's blood that scared everyone who watched the ending of the fight. Sanji cursed his stupid desire. Nami covered her mouth upon seeing the merciless act of a warlord. Johnny and Yosaku cried seeing their big brother defeated. Usopp went underwater to rescue him, and Luffy yelled his name with memories slipping in. Zoro. Luffy's mind flashbacked him to his own almost fatal clash with Zoro in the New World in his demonic form that almost proved fatal. Guilt and anger soared to him as old scars burned bright. Damn him. 1 gear second dash was all it took to be charging at Mihawk. The warlord noticed the medium haki release that knocked a good amount of cooks and pirates alike. Watching at the source of the conqueror's haki, he turned to Luffy at the ready to slash him. Mihawk was respectful for this man for not attacking while they were dueling, but somehow knew that this kid knows Zoro never had a chance to even start with. He raised his sword on the defensive, knowing he could have potential to at least spar. Gear fourth, right arm, he bellowed, breathing in a long breath to exhale it to his right limb that became enlarged as to not be seeable to the spectators thanks to a mysterious sea mist, but definitely visible to the warlord who watched the approaching pirate. Gamu Gamu no. Mihawk was amazed a kid could be capable to use haki in the weakest sea, and wondered who he was until Luffy's limb became vulcanized. He has complete control of his haki, noticing the haki tattoos that formed inexplicably. He sensed the caliber of his attack and knew whoever this kid was, he was not playing around. The swordsman prompted himself to go all out in his attack that was going to collide with Luffy's move any second now. The power emanating from both of them was tremendous, and those who watched prepared for what could be an island-shattering clash that even Zeph went for cover to avoid being collateral damage. In the last millisecond, Hawkeye's felt his punch triple in power. Kong gun. The clash ensued mass chaos, destroying the debris of the pirate ship even further and hitting the barricade, suffering a massive collision shockwave produced from the immense air pressure release that sent all those watching in the sidelines either flying, crashing, or falling into the ocean. Incredibly, among them was the warlord himself, who was knocked off his feet to crash land in the ship's remnants with a pain he has not felt since he faced Akagami in the New World. Spits blood. He is powerful beyond my expectations. I couldn't block that strike. The master swordsman grunted, now feeling a bruise on all of his left ribs. He looked to the kid in the straw hat standing intact of his slash and expected another hit, but he was relieved to see the kid grinning, seeing his friend alive in the waters and well with a group tending to his injuries. A moment later, to compose himself and Zoro was brought to the ship, Mihawk jumped in front of the powerful kid and faced at Zoro's direction. He gave a grin to Luffy, then faced Zoro. It's still too early for you to die. My name is Dracula Mihawk. Discover your true self, the true world, become stronger. However long it may take, I shall await you at the top. Surpass this sword. Surpass me. Roronoa Zoro. Mihawk ended his challenge with Zoro promising to never again be defeated. Finishing his promise at Mihawk, who acknowledged the will of the swordsman who respected his captain at that level, began to look at Luffy. Mihawk stood tall and stepped away from Luffy. In a sense, he felt what Zoro was going to do. Luffy put his straw hat on and awaited for his friend to gain his breath. Slowly, a sword arose from the small boat. Usopp placed him alongside Yosaku and Johnny. Luffy He gurgled blood and straightened out. I'm sorry I lost. I disgraced my name. But I swear on this sword in my vow to become the best, that I will never lose again. Is that all right with you, Pirate King? The bystanders and the crew watched in awe. The beginning of a powerful bond and trust happened right then and there. Shishishi nope. Zoro them lost consciousness and the guys began to treat him the best they could. Luffy looked away and saw Mihawk sizing him up. So who are you, young man? Luffy looked at Mihawk with a grin. The swordsman clutched his side, in relief to see the man smiling. He got an answer. I'm Monkey D. Luffy, the man who will become the king of the pirates. Mihawk stared at him with understanding and possibility. You have even a harder path to beat than Roronoa. Good luck, kid, but something tells me you will get far anyway. Pirate King. He went to sail off pretending not to be injured, which in fact he was now bleeding profusely. Let's see how he does in the new world, he thought as he sailed to paradise in search of Akagami. On the other hand, Zoro noticed his injury as the greatest swordsman left to the Grand Line. Barely he could see, but he got it etched to HSI memory. The pirates looked up to watch the warlord leaving his pursuit. Krieg stood up, feeling safe once again. Hey kid, how about we settle what we started? Luffy glanced his new enemy with irritation. Let's go then. Krieg began to point his guns at Luffy, who now wanted to eat. Seeing the guns moving slow as hell, he armored himself in invisible hack. Krieg fired his weapons, hitting Luffy point blank with the bullets not causing any damage whatsoever. That scared Krieg to his wits and bringing all sorts of reactions to his crewmates, with Nami now having a reinforced belief in Luffy. Usopp and the duo hunters were yelling so cool, and Sanji dropped his newly lit cigarette to the amazing, apparently bulletproof pirate. Luffy walked casually through the firestorm until Krieg ran out of bullets. What the hell are you? Stepping back, Luffy went gear second. That unleashed a torrent of steam. I'm the man that beat you, uppercutting him in the jaw. He was blown into the air with the hero following pursuit. Gamu Gamu no jet pistol flinging the enemy across the sea. Krieg tried to block it with his spiked cloak, but it just broke apart to the hit. Gamu Gamu no Yari whipping him across to the ocean with his failed attempt of shield blocking, which broke from the unbreakable momentum as he kept Krieg going in a circle of pain, striking him to make a blurry smush from the violent fury of attacks. Everyone saw the utter velocity Krieg was being beaten in, spilling blood below to the watchers of an unholy fight that seemed to be going overboard even for a pirate as Krieg. Luffy stopped in midair while Don Krieg fell to the ocean, floating in an absolute knockout silent scream face while pouring blood into the blue sea. The hero now was walking towards the restaurant with his straw hat covering his gaze. That startled the cooks, but his crew immediately went to hug him, celebrating the victory he so easily gained by the lightning speed he had. The atmosphere the straw hats made around the captain made Luffy change from the serious fighter to a joyful kid. The cooks began to grin as that friendship spread a jolly feeling, sending everyone into laughter, and finally ended with a party thanking the young pirate for his courageous action to save the restaurant. Sanji was a man who would respect another if he showed values. Here a kid who wanted him for his chef showed that, and so much more in the name of friendship. Screw it, I'll join him. During the party, Sanji went to talk to Luffy. Hey Luffy, can I talk to you? The pirate gladly ate his 58th serving to go speak with the cook outside. So what up? Luffy said as he walked to Sanji, who seemed a little conflicted. Is this about joining me? Asked the observing captain. It is, Luffy. I don't know whether to stay or accept your invitation, but I have a dream. Have you heard of the All Blue? Luffy acted dumb to such an idea, wanting to hear his dream once again along the reason he wanted to stay, but Luffy told him the truth of what Zeph really thought of him. So they were all lying. Sanji retorted to this revelation. Yeah, they are just being jerks to push you to leave with me, Luffy replied to the cook that took this as his go sign. Then I'll join your ship to follow my dream. Plus, Luffy saw his expression twisting into a perverted glee and resisted the urge to laugh. I can be with Nami-san. Twirling like a dust devil, making Luffy laugh. Good to have you back, Sanji. The crew was happy to obtain the new chef in their group except for a green moss head, but the rest were very thankful, especially since they would really need that around Luffy with his black hole stomach. Sanji farewelled his fellow friends of the Barady, took his supplies, and gave his last gratitude to the owner Zeph, shedding some tears as they left the restaurant heading to the next objective accompanied by the bounty hunters. An hour or so later they all went to do what they pleased with Luffy, Usopp, and the duo swordsmen played some cards to waste time while Zoro trained to become stronger due to his simple defeat at the hands of the strongest. Must be stronger, he repeated in his head as he pushed the limits he had and increased the times he lifted his weights, even though he was still aching from the giant scar he had. Meanwhile, Sanji was preparing the meal for lunch with his specialty course to celebrate his joining, and had a twinge of excitement to see the faces of his new customers with his recipes. Except for the ugly mug of Zoro, he thought. But among these happy surroundings, Nami could not shake the stalking terror that desperately told her to not defy Arlong. Her whole body just could not be at rest with all of them going to Kakuyashi to beat that monster. What if she could not push away the thoughts of the outcome if Luffy lost? If he died? She could not concentrate on anything else nor space out her mind, for right now they were heading to face off with the monster who tore her village. Not even taking a nap could calm her nerves. Oi Nami. She did not turn or answer Luffy's voice. She felt powerless to her instincts, noticing her body was trembling slightly, including having a pale skin color that told of a very negative emotion, while she hugged herself, looking into the direction of Kakoyashi village. The captain was intrigued at her physical effects she was having out of fear. Nami. Luffy wanted to talk to her, but he knew she would not respond to whatever he tried to say. So instead he hugged her from the back, holding her frightened hands with the notion to relieve her stress. She came to sense and timidly asked one question while staring at the distaste of the sea. Luffy, can you really beat him? Nami asked with a scared child voice. Luffy talked with his friendly voice. Of course I can, Nami. How do you know? What if he's stronger than you think and he kills you? She pushed him away. Luffy could see the shifty movements in her eyes. Do you know how I will feel if you guys go there only to die? A small stream of tears made a trail to both of her cheeks, and in a silly attempt she covered them and turned away. She did not want Luffy to see her weak. The captain, on the other hand, saw the opposite of what she thought of those tears. Nami, look at me. Slowly she eased herself to turn to Luffy and was hugged. It's okay to cry and to be afraid. Don't ever hide those emotions, because the only thing it does is hurt you and us. She nodded and let her head sit comfortably on his neck. Remember always that people that cry is not from being weak, but because that person has been strong for too long. She stopped her whimpering when he heard Luffy's life experience wisdom, so please stop shaking and smile from now on. He will pay for what he has done to you, and above all he has made you cry. Luffy sounded off to the heavens and tightened his hug that made Nami blush from the contact with the man who would save her village in a very near future. I'm scared. What if he kills you? Nami expressed her worry again. Luffy looked at her stern, worried look that made him laugh. Why are you laughing? She yelled to the antics of the captain. Nami, even if there was an entire army of himself, it would still be impossible for him to win. She marveled to his words and remembered that a kid like him with no visible muscles could push away one of the Shishibukai while remaining unharmed, plus she could still feel the radiating red eyes she once saw on Luffy. How strong is he? Nami out of the blue hugged him back, letting tears of relief stream down her cheeks into his chest until she felt relieved to be by his side. Luffy's mind now had a goal. Arlong will pay. For the first time both sides of his spectrum could agree into beating the sheet out of Arlong, for they had made his navigator cry, and no one, absolutely no one, can do that to her. Standing there stuck together made him remember the times where he almost told her the truth. Should I change that? Planning to make a move or at least hint her about it was a go for him until Sanji came in. Namichwa and lunches Luffy, get our hands off her. Without a sweat he kicked Luffy away, almost falling to the ocean, but thanks to Jeppu he flew back to the Mary. Hey Sanji, why did you do that? He ran up to the captain, as did Luffy. No one's touches Namichwa but me. Luffy pouted to being interrupted, but it must have been destiny telling him something, so he stopped arguing with Sanji and went to eat. The crew was there already waiting. Big bro Luffy, so why did you come late to eat? Johnny asked, followed by Usopp and Yosaku. Me and Nami were talking about the next island. As a matter of fact, can you tell them, Nami? She nodded, retelling her story to the whole crew, earning different reactions. Zoro and Sanji understood. Both of them could not wait to kick Fishman ass. Usopp, Johnny, and Kisaku were not so sure with the bounty Arlong had, but alongside the monster trio they could not bother to have doubts. Don't worry big sis, we will help you all take down the Fishman pirate. The bounty hunters cheered, with Usopp following their chant and Zoro grinning at the challenge until Sanji kicked in. Don't worry Namichwa, your knight in shining armor will take down those shady Fishman bastards. Zoro laughed at his remark. Did I say something funny? Marimo. Zoro heard the insult, preparing a comeback. There is, especially if it comes from a lovesick cook. Sanji immediately flared up with anger. You wanna fight, Marimo? Bring it on, Aro cook. Taking their stances, the ones who watched the struggle began laughing, especially Luffy, seeing the universal fact that no matter what dimension or time section he was in, they will always fight each other. Taking advantage of this, Luffy began stealthy eating from his friends' plates, earning shouts from them along a beating from Sanji. Preparing for battle, Luffy took matters into his hands by designing a plan of who is doing what. Yosh, guys, hear me out on this. I've got a plan. Everyone stared shocked at the captain. What? Luffy stared back. You, Sanji began, thought of something. Nami ended, earning Luffy a pout. Jerks, they all laughed, but Luffy became serious due to the matter at hand. Guys, there's no time to fool around. Zoro sat up straight, hearing the commanding voice of Luffy. Everyone shut up and listened to the man. The Straw Hats did as they were told. Okay, let's start. Once we arrive, I want Nami, Johnny, and Yosaku to warn everyone to leave their homes, while Zoro, Sanji, Usopp, and me go to kick their asses. The plan was simple that everyone agreed, even the worried Nami. Today, Kakoyashi village is going to be freed. Yeah, the crew yelled in conjunction to help out the navigator against the Arlong pirates. Luffy sensed the fishmen now that they were a mile away. Arlong was sitting on his throne surrounded by his kin and was least expecting the attack of an East Blue pirate. I'm fixing your mistake, Jinpei thought as he heard his nakama getting ready to fight the fishmen. Guys, get ready. We're not wasting any time. Do your jobs and once done come to watch Arlong being beat the hell up. The crew nodded as Mary was going to harbor in 3, 2, 1, go. The Straw Hats ran to do their tasks with Nami, Johnny, and Yosaku, warning the villagers of Arlong's park downfall, who at first did not believe them. Stop lying, you thief. A villager spoke. Arlong cannot be defeated. Even his men are beyond beatable. Another yelled, which Nami spoke out. If you don't believe me, then see them in action. Luffy, who went ahead, ran all around the island beating down the fishmen that controlled certain areas. And there's more fishmen than I remember. Whatever, beat them all. He beat every single enemy that were not in Arlong Park and brought them when he heard Nami's words. 37 fishmen all knocked out, being piled up for the villagers to see who now truly believed in Nami's words. Follow us to the docks, unload the ships to see from afar. The villagers no longer objected as they began to go to the ships, with Luffy pointing them to leave as they were, but he quickly noticed a terrified Nichiko and an angered Genzo, who did not believe a kid could beat such a monster. Hey, I said move it. Luffy bellowed, which unleashed a weak pulse of Conqueror's haki that sent them all to the boats without any person from having their will overwhelm. Zoro, Sanji, Usopp, follow me. The captain began to run towards Arlong Park with his comrades following him to face the tyrants. Finally reaching the dam place, Luffy did the honors by knocking down the entrance, illuminating the park filled with fishmen. Who here is named Arlong? Asked the Straw Hat captain to the enemy crew. One stood up from his chair. That is me. What business do we have, human? The fishman leader answered, with his fellow followers laughing. I'm Monkey D. Luffy. Pirate Luffy began to steadily walk up to Arlong. And what does a pirate want with me? Upon a meter or so, 2 fishmen appeared in front of Luffy, but he was not here for games, releasing his Conqueror's haki, knocking the fishmen stragglers along, pushing them away into the ocean, only leaving the captain, Arlong, Hachai, Chu, and Kurubai left standing but weak in the knees from receiving a powerful blast. Arlong, you are so weak you can't hold on against the will of a human. Luffy mocked Arlong as he and the remaining fishmen recovered. Zoro fight Hachai, Sanji fight the spiked elbows guy, and Usopp take out Big Lips. They went to face their indicated targets, with Usopp shaking a little from the fear of facing a fishman, but yet he pulled through with threading the guy, resulting in a pursuit to the forest. Usopp, he thought about Usopp's bravery as he saw Zoro fighting Hachai and Sanji fighting the other guy. Meanwhile, Arlong was waiting like Luffy to see who would be victorious in their fights. We are fishmen, superior beings than you lowly scum. How dare you defy us by removing the villagers into their boats and beating my subordinates? Because you made my navigator cry. Usopp versus Chu. Faking his death, Usopp laid in his ketchup star as Chu inspected his corpse. Puny human died by my water shot. He was walking back to Arlong Park, leaving a confident Usopp. He didn't suspect a thing. He sat up, dusting his clothes like he gave it his all. Now what should I say? Sorry guys, I tried my best, but he's too strong. Usopp flashback to the time Zoro gave everything up to fulfill his dream, Nami risking her life for years to save her homeland, and Luffy defending his homeland as if he was born in that island. His lies fell flat and his tongue stinged in disgust to even think to fake trip. No, hey you fishman, Usopp yelled, bringing the attention of Chu. I want to be a real pirate. I must start to act like one now. He recited in his mind to face the rival he had to beat, Hisatsu Namori Boshi. He fired lead stars, hitting the fishman, who also began to fire his water shots at him, who took cover behind the trees until Chu fired his most powerful water cannon that tore through a whole tree. Wow, I'm so dead. Wait, looking in his bag he found an alcohol bottle. Perfect. He then planned to distract the fishman via throwing a rock to another location. As he fell into the trap, firing his charged attack, Usopp hit him with the bottle, covering him in the alcohol. Hisatsu Kayaku Boshi. Hitting him point blank, he was lit on fire. I'm on fire. Chu yelled as he was engulfed by the flames. Panicking, he ran to the nearest water puddle, from which he charged his cannon to put out the fire until Usopp took advantage of his enemy's situation. Usopp hammer, hitting the fishman on the back of the head, knocking him down to the puddle. Usopp hammer, Usopp hammer, Usopp hammer, Usopp rubber band, Usopp hammer. He repeated this attacks over and over until Chu was defeated with lumps all over him. Yeah, I beat the enemy. I'm Captain Usopp. He cheered to the first victory he had as a real pirate against a true adversary. Usopp left to watch the rest, how they did their best just like he did. Zoro versus Hachai. Back in the park, Zoro was getting ready to fight the 6-armed fishman Roronoa Zoro, the 3-sword style bounty hunter of the Blue Sea. You think you can barge in with that kid and try to get Arlong's head on my watch, Nayo? Zoro did not care of what he said. Instead, he thought about his outright weakness he had now. I don't know if I can beat him with one sword while injured. Damn my weak body, he cursed himself for losing to Mihawk so easily. Are you even listening? Hachin yelled to his uninterested opponent. Sorry, don't care. Zoro responded, to which Hachai became serious. The 6-style swordsman of the Arlong pirates will take you down, pirate hunter. Zoro chuckled. I left that title behind for now. I am a pirate. Hachai began swinging his swords at Zoro, who could only block the incoming strikes with his Wado Ikamongi. At this rate I will lose. He began to attempt to attack to only end up blocked by Hachai's hits. His giant vertical cut was faring no better as it threatened to open the sealed wound. This is the end for you, Roronoa. Hachai swung his 6 swords in one fell swoop, but Zoro dodged the attack, stepping a few feet away from him. Fortunately, Johnny and Yasaku appeared in the broken entrance. Big bro Luffy. The captain turned to face them. The villagers are now safe, watching from a safe distance, he reported, into which Luffy grinned. Shishishi, great job guys. The duo hunters did a high five with their swords, making an urgent Zoro get an idea. Johnny, Yasaku, pass me your swords now. The hunters did as they were told, but as they were doing so, Hachin was charging at the first mate at full speed with his swords at the ready. Big bro here, Yasaku screamed, watching the approaching fisherman while Zoro caught the thrown swords, twisting himself, dodging the swords in the process. Santoryu Hachai was amazed at his skill, that not only he dodged his blades but also shattered them with minimal effort. Why he never got to finish as Zoro began his final and one-move attack. Tatsumaki. Doing a twister flip, he launched the poor fishman by a rising tornado of slashes that sent him to a painful defeat. Great job, Zoro. He is stronger than last time, so I guess things do change as I'm stronger than my past self, meaning. Oog, my head hurts, he stopped theorizing as Arlong's face contorted into anger. Damn you humans. We can't be beat here by mere pirates. Luffy chuckled. Then that tells you something, right? He and Luffy stopped talking to see the next final match to finally start the battle of the captains. Nami also appeared in the entrance as Usopp arrived there with her to see Arlong still standing along Luffy. Good luck guys. She cheered to the cook, who twirl in happiness, annoying Kirubai. Sanji versus Kirubai. So that tramp betrayed us after all, huh? Expected from a human. He commented, feeling cocky towards his enemy. Take that back, sheety fish. The karate fishman humphed in annoyance. Or human. Or you better get prepared to get some manners, damn fish. Throwing his cigarette to the ground, he stepped on it and began running to a stance. Kirubai, who took Sanji's starting kick like a true warrior. Once I beat you, that war will be next. Pushing back the cook with his elbow blade. Over my dead body. Sanji then erupted into overdrive, trying to hit the parrying fishman, who was blocking his every move and attempting to strike the cook, but unsuccessful to his kicking technique. He was kicking the fishman while in a handstand and tried to break the defense of the fishman, but to no avail. He kept his arms in defense. He, however, did feel the hits. I commend you on your strength. It surpasses human limits that allows you to be on par with me, but tell me, why do you give your life up for one girl? He mocked Sanji's motive to fight him. A lady deserves only the best because they are heavenly figures that we men have the honor to see. It is a rule that even the dinosaurs knew, you damn fish. All of you imprisoned Nami and her village, made her sacrifice everything to your dirty dealings. Assholes like you deserve to be taught a lesson, he answered while fighting Kirubai. He slashed Sanji in the arm and cocked him away in one leg swipe. How dare you, puny human, to insult us, worse yet, even think to fight us, superior fishmen. Sanji laughed and recomposed himself, clearly not affected by the hit. Making a lady cry is one thing. He hit Kirubai wide open in the gut, causing the fishman to belch over. But enslaving one is unforgivable. Collier, striking Kirubai's neck, sending him crashing to the pool, with Sanji making the mistake of underestimating the enemy. In the water, Sanji quickly recognized his failure as Kirubai was beating the sheet out of him through this so-called fishman karate with superhuman blows to his gut that further decreased his chance to strike back. Itamaki Kumite, the fishman, using the ponytail he had grabbed Sanji's waist. I am a fishman karate practitioner level 40. Let me show you the power of the ocean. They were now in the very bottom of the pool, with still holding Sanji with his tail and arms. Apakushi Chakakoro, the fishman, quickly rose through the water like a torpedo, causing a great pressure hit in Sanji's body. I need to get air now. His instincts told him to get out of his grip and fight him on land, but how can he free himself from the lock? Repeating this attack again to the poor cook, he was now bleeding internally to the immense pressure build up. Let's see how much you can take before it kills you. He laughed at Sanji's misery, diving down to perform the killing blow when Sanji bit the fishman's gills to exhale the oxygen, causing him to choke. This made him retreat back towards land, with Sanji following pursuit, receiving the air he so needed. Bastard human, land or water won't make a difference, he bellowed, with Sanji thinking otherwise. Hyakumegawara Seiken. Kirubai struck for the final time at the cook as he finished his battle. Or so he thought. Jigget, Sel, Colette, Eppo, Collier. In that consecutive move, Kirubo fell to the cold hard ground, having a great deal of pain, to barely stand to be kicked suddenly in the face, crashing into Arlong Park's building, to where a smiling Luffy could be seen staring into a serious Arlong, with the crowd of villagers on boats watching from a distance to the winning Straw Hats. They really are doing it. A villager announced, today is the day Arlong Park will be destroyed. Another spoke, bringing a group of whales to possible salvation. Nami was right. He can do it. She cheered as Genzo could not believe his eyes that only Arlong remained from all of his crew. Thanks, kid, he mumbled to the soon-to-be savior of Kakuyashi village. Arlong, your crew is beat from the puny lackey to the overconfident fighter, so it's time to kick your ass, he shouted to the angry fishman. You come barging in here taking out my brethren, then claim Nami to be your navigator. We superior fishmen were beaten by a weak kid. I will avenge my fallen brothers. He charged at the Straw Hat captain, who only had a smug. He doesn't know a thing that's about to happen. Luffy waited in anxiety as he slowly saw the enemy dash to him until he was at range. Gamu Gamu no jet pistol. The hit socked him but did not send him flying like so many others were. Instead, the hit broke 3 ribs of his right side while puncturing his organs that caused Arlong to bleed internally and externally in a quick succession that blew the eyes out of the villagers that some lanky kid could make what they thought of it, the indestructible being to retch blood to splatter the tiles. WWHHHAA. The watchers yelled to the unbelievable sight while Luffy sighed. This jerk can't take one of my hits. That just sad. He degraded his view of him as an enemy to a nuisance that made the fishman stand up. He made Nami cry though, so before you go to impel down. He stands to his gear second as Nami could not believe her eyes. The navigator was overwhelmed with happiness that this could be that day she was waiting for. A day where she realized that knights do exist. He really can beat him, feeling a huge wave of relief to finally see her worst nightmare literally fall. Beat him, Luffy. Upon hearing this, Luffy smiled to his crew who were now supporting their captain then nursing their wounds. Gear second. As steam rose, Arlong felt a feeling he would get only around strong, terrifying individuals like this human. He never got to finish his comparison as he was blown to his home front doors, slamming down like bricks. He managed to keep his consciousness and picked himself up to once again charged at Luffy, who punched him square on the face, shattering his teeth that slowly re-emerged due to the massive hit fracturing his skull. The mighty Arlong was no longer feeling so mighty, and Luffy looked like he was about to murder him in a stare. Fishman this, how about you show it then? Gamu Gamu no jet Gatling gun. Pummeling Arlong to the pool to the very bottom, he let off some smoke of his anger, intentionally giving him a slight recovery time. The fishman composed himself and got a new idea. Preparing his momentum, he swam to the top, revealing his fin shark. Luffy stared at it for a minute. Oh, a shark. Everyone's face fell to Luffy's outright stupidity. Get serious. The villagers and Straw Hats yelled at him anime style. Don't wanna? Luffy pouted as they all then shut up as Arlong's fin disappeared from sight. To which Luffy faced the opposite way of the pool, not really caring for giving that guy a look when he was no threat. Plus, he did not like his enemies to not have a clear bullseye. Luffy, what are you doing? Nami yelled as he looked way too relaxed. She was freaking out and grabbed her face in worry. Just watch Nami. He confidently sounded off, relaxing Nami a bit until the pool began forming underwater waves, which Luffy ignored as he closed his eyes with Nami screaming bloody murder to turn around. Shark on darts. Nami stared paralyzed with fear to the possible death of her hero. Luffy. She shrieked, remembering Bellamere as Arlong torpedoed out of the water, getting closer to Luffy as she imponently stared in shock, covering her eyes with her hands as she heard the faint sound of flesh tearing that made her shiver, shaking her head in denial to look but knowing she must see the outcome. Nami tenderly opened her eyes to not believe what she was seeing. Arlong's nose broke upon Luffy's body and bounced off of him in even more blood of his own. The fishman injured only himself. The fishman rebounded to the air. Nami focused back to Luffy and raggedly breathed in utter contentment. Luffy, you're all right. She sighed in absolute relief but knocked off her disbelief to watch Luffy extending his arms to grab him by the shoulders. Gamu Gamu no jet whipping him to the building he was gonna make into an empire. Arlong was sent fired off like cannonball, destroying even further the almost to collapse building, leaving him barely able to stand, now enraged to his berserk instinct boosting him one last time as he punched the only remaining wall to take out his Kiribachi, heading full throttle to strike Luffy with the eyes of a pissed sea king. We are the superior fishmen, gifted by powers of the heavens. We have the right to rule over you puny humans. He jumped to swing his weapon. Luffy, be careful. She stopped speaking as the weapon she saw tear apart pirate ships, pillage villages, and kill people shattered to the mere contact of Luffy's blackened arm. He smugged at the tyrannical leader. So far you're a weakling, as Jin told me, he revealed happily to the weak fishman. Arlong was stunned. A human knew of Jin, meaning to him he was a strong fighter beyond reasonable doubt if he knew about his fishman brother who could beat him no sweat, but was shaken out of the thought as Luffy socked him through the building up to the last room where the torment of Nami resided. Luffy bounded upwards in one jump and landed in the room's window, which he dropped kick to enter. He looked at Arlong, who was bleeding and barely recovering from his forceful way up the stories that left a crater near the door. Luffy walked to the desk and looked around the room. Just as he remembered it, this place reeked of cruelty. Unknowingly he snarled, this place should never exist. It will never be here again. Luffy stared at a shivering, bleeding Arlong in pure anger. Nami had to suffer under his foolish quest to take over the world because he did not like humans. because he thought he was better. In a fit of fists, he pummeled the room in every square inch, spewing out grid maps that took Nami years to create under Arlong's imprisonment. The fishman was powerless as his body shut down to receive some relief of the pain in his body. Gomu, no, Arlong threw up even more crimson liquid but stood up with all his might to give one final attack. Shark, on, he began as he saw Luffy kicking his right foot upwards, tearing the roof into splinters with pure elastic power. Tooth, Jet, oh no. The jet axe attacked way faster than Arlong's move. It was futile as he attempted to bite Luffy and ended up shattering his teeth in the process, while also being slammed down through the building, obliterating the pride and superior anatomy of the fishman captain, to which finally it destroyed the remaining stability of said structure, falling down immediately. The crowd watched in awe as the nightmare drowned to debris. Luffy, Nami called desperately to him as she was being hauled into safety by Johnny. The villagers were closing in to dock near the wrecked park to see the winner of the ensuing chaos. The smoke dissipated to show the fallen Arlong Park with its master knocked out, bleeding everywhere to the shock of the crowd. He did it, a person yelled, bringing the rest to celebrate. Their dictator was gone for good. Genzo, is this real? Marveled. Najiko went closer to the scene she was finding hard to take in. It's finally over, after so much time. That kid pulled through, hugging each other, thinking the same thing. Bellemere, you can now rest, the man bowed as he hugged Najiko. But Nami brought the attention of those who were caught up in their freedom to not notice their savior was missing. Luffy, she began to run to the mountain of debris, but she knew nothing in there could have survived, making her shiver to think, and distracted herself by shoveling the rocks away in vain. That explosion was too violent. It felt like a bomb went off and Luffy could have gotten hurt badly. Or, she teared, thinking that he died protecting her. A man that only wanted her as his friend gave her so much more than that. She kept digging and moving rubble away, cutting up her fingers and hands that made her bleed, but that did not stop her. I'm sorry, so sorry. She was now visibly crying, with the villagers also looking at the destruction, coming down with the same conclusion. They bowed in memory of the valiant kid who gave it his all. But farther down the entrance, the other Straw Hats were not worried at all, knowing where Luffy was as they looked in the sky, seeing the captain floating in midair. Show off, Zoro murmured and smirked. Sanji was impatient and wanted to yell at him for making Nami cry, but he felt something good was coming out of this. In the sky, Luffy was holding his mouth from laughing his ass off to give them a big scare with a mischievous plan he had. Sha, he copied Arlong's laugh to hear screams from the villagers, and Nami to hear the unbearable laugh of that monster that made them paranoid, looking everywhere very terrified, while the Straw Hats plus the bounty hunters were now laughing to the perfect jump scare. They all looked to the flying figure in the sky and saw the Arlong grinning mischievously. Ha ha ha, Luffy, you got them good. Usopp laughed as Johnny and Yosaku couldn't remain standing from the stunt Luffy pulled. Luffy, you devil, Zoro said as he clapped his great mimicry. Oi Shirigamo, don't scare Nami Swan like that. The villagers now looked up, seeing their hero descend gracefully to them, where they carried him up their shoulders, chanting, Kanpai. Everyone was now happy to see the kind pirate alive and well, showing him the great appreciation they had for him, when suddenly Nami dropped to her knees, keeping her hands covering her tears, and failing to which Luffy used Zoro to be by the navigator. He felt a pang of guilt of being playful in such a matter too soon. Nami, I'm sorry to make you worry like that, he told her meekly as he felt his throat hurt seeing a teary navigator. She was now looking at him through red-rimmed eyes. He brushed her bangs away and smeared her tears away. You are my Nakama. He placed his hat on her head to calm her down, remembering how last time around she had stabbed her shoulder tattooed with Arlong's mark. He was rattled out of his memory to feel the embrace of Nami with her tears touching his cardigan, that made him feel even more guilty to make her think he was gone. Nami, I'm sore. She cut him short as she spoke. You're alive. She squeezed him further as Luffy saw the relief she was experiencing, knowing no one had to die to gain the freedom of the village. While you stay with me, I will still stand for you, he said while smirking to the rising blush Nami had until Najiko tapped her sister by the shoulder, then picking her up by her hand, while Luffy was picked up by a group of people to celebrate their new lives given by the man they carried. After a long day of defeating fishmen, beating up a marine rat trader, which like last time ended with bumps on his head and the threat of his to Luffy that he will be sorry for what he has done, and still partying like there is no tomorrow, Luffy got lost to the outskirts of the village, to where he found Genzo pouring sake to a tune that Luffy knew who it was. Hey, where is the party? Luffy shouted dumbly to make his presence known. Genzo stood up, shaking his clothes and facing the young lad. Did someone die, old man? Luffy asked him, to which he answered, yes, a long time ago. Genzo sighed as he looked down to the simple tomb carrying inside one of the most important people to Nami. Luffy bowed his head. I'm sorry, I give my condolences, Genzo corrected him. Yeah, that this time Luffy became serious to what Genzo was about to say. The man sighed. Nami wants to come along with you pirates, and I know I can't stop her no matter what I do. That's okay. But I warn you, if you ever take away her smile away, I will personally come to take you down, Straw Hat. Genzo threatened the captain. That sparked Luffy to remember his failed attempts to kill Nami with everyone else in the uncontrollable face of Gear 6, slapping himself mentally from the minuscule screams edging from his brain. Never again. He cemented that vow and stood upright, walking up to him as he vulcanized his right arm to shake Genzo's hand. I promise on my powers, my will, that I will always make her smile in your stead, Luffy promised in a fashion that kinda threw the old man at how serious he got, but to which Genzo took in as not only a promise, but a fact that prompted him to shake his hand. Thank you, boy, Luffy grinned and was gonna step away to mess around with his friends until he got an urge to ask this man a very important thing he wanted to do in the future. It just felt right, and he should know about that matter from him rather than gossips of the Marines or pirates. Old Pinwheel Man, I also want to ask you. Time stopped as the words left to touch Genzo's eardrums. Hearing his words and making the sentence out, Genzo almost had a stroke from what this kid wanted from him. He wasn't Nami's father, but he saw the seriousness of this pirate statement that he shrugged the monotone answer of almost saying no. This time he felt his brain tight in a bind. His mind tugged at him, remembering how Nami cried for him plus the act he just did to make her happy, destroying Arlong Park. Not only that, but the kid took Arlong down with ease and no apparent injuries after it was settled. He was strong, loyal, and caring so much that he could be confused with a hero or marine. He composed himself to answer the waiting pirate. Yes, I bless you both, he stated. After finishing up packing necessary materials and resources, the Straw Hats were gonna leave the village Eddie in the dock, just waiting for the navigator to send it away to the right direction. Hey, where's Nami Swan? Sanji freaked as he could not see her anywhere. Who cares, a row cook? Zoro said mockingly, bringing Sanji's attention like lit gas. She is everything for me. And the only reason I'm staying with you shitty bastards, Marimo. They made faces to each other as they continued to insult each other while Luffy and Usopp laughed at their childish behavior, with them faring no better. Until Nami was coming full speed from a crowd of the villagers wanting to say goodbye, but she didn't let them as she sprinted to the ship. Set sail, she commanded, to which Luffy did, Mary going into motion as Nami jumped from the wooden ramp onto the ship in a successful jump, causing Sanji to twirl in excitement. That was majestic, my dearest Nami Swan. He voiced his thoughts out, as Nami lifted her shirt halfway to spill out a bunch of wallets that belonged to the people on the docks. The people saw that. To their surprise, it was theirs, you thief. They all shrieked, realizing she stole all their wallets. But we will miss you, it rhetorically said, waving the orange-haired thief away as she started her new pirating career. One person, however, was still uncertain of the bow between himself and Luffy. Kid, remember our promise? Genzo yelled to the Straw Hat captain, to which he planned to let him know in grand style. Gamu Gamu no, he extended his arm backwards that started to ignite in flames. Luffy, you're on fire. Usopp shouted, startled to see his captain's arm of fire and how the flames seemed to swirl around his arm like water. What the hell? Sanji dropped his cigarette at the sight of Luffy's attack, while Zoro laughed at Sanji's dumb expression of Luffy's random move, a move he knew better, that Luffy was pyro-prone for some reason. Firework. His flaming punch burst into flames in a pattern, creating colors burst in one round like its namesake, which marveled the spectators in land, water, and his crew. I will, Luffy yelled to Genzo as he jumped to the lights, giving a thumbs up so the crowd could see. From then on, Genzo put his faith in that man. See you after you become Pirate King. Kid, he smiled, feeling secure this kid won't fail a bit on that promise. He chuckled to think how the proposed ceremony would look like in the very distant future, waving the Straw Hats away. He had faith Luffy would achieve it, no doubt. Days later, after some random adventures including a young little girl and an old guy with his sheep, they arrived to the fabled town of Gol D. Roger, the place where he was born and executed. The Straw Hats went into town to buy supplies and other necessary items. Okay guys, we have time to buy our stuff but remain undetected by the Marines. We don't want to be followed by fleets. Nami warned them and set them off to do whatever they wanted to get. Or do in Luffy's case. Hey Nami, can I borrow some bellies? I need to get some swords, Zoro asked nonchalantly as Nami gleefully planned her interest scheme, saying yes to the poor, unweary swordsman as he head out to find a sword shop where he would accidentally meet with Tashiki, who beat some weak guys that were messing around with her for wearing glasses, and mistakenly Zoro thought she was Kuina. Usopp went to buy some snipping goggles, but a little girl got him first, which he planned to coerce the girl to give them to him until his father came, known in the East Blue as Big Daddy, who knew his father Yasopp and ended up facing off in a snipping contest. Nami went to buy herself clothes using her discounts method, and Sanji was embarked to have a cooking competition with a charming chef lady and her not-so-glamorous sidekicks, but Luffy was having a bad day. He was happy he could see the place where the Pirate King was executed, yet he remembered a good Marine friend he put down in cold blood from this eventful place he met. Flashback. The Straw Hats were fighting tooth and nail against the monster that once was their captain, but due to the absolute power he had, the only thing they could do now was to run away. Everyone run to the Sunny. We can't beat him, Zoro said as he was bleeding from his forehead. The rest nodded as they picked up the fallen and left the dead as the monster was still coming. Who said you can leave? Luffy laughed at his ex-nakama that he valued once upon a time, but now as they were his enemies he planned to kill in absolute hate by making an example of them. Come back here, bastards. In his abominable Gear 6th he rocketed at full throttle to them. GOMU no Goliath net. His spiked right arm split apart like net that formed into random patterns growing out spikes and expanded immensely to trap the Straw Hats in a death trap when suddenly, white blow, out of nowhere Smoker parried the attack of Luffy, saving the Straw Hats and those in the way. None of them talked as just running was hard for them. He too was badly beaten, but his cool kept strong. Leave now, pirates. Take my men with you and make an army to stop this demon. I'll hold him back for a while, as I can possibly can. The White Chase declared in a commanding voice, even though he still was injured from his beating and the blood loss of his severed limb. The Straw Hats were amazed to his remaining strength even though he lost his left arm. Smoker-san, don't do this. Tashigi in anguish yelled as Zoro held her back from going to Smoker. Don't hold him back. This is sacrifice, woman. Zoro roared as he was moderately pulling her away from the scene. The man saw her second in command with eyes of a proud father and felt a tinge of sadness seeing her pulling or punching at Zoro to leave her here. But he knew this had to be done. He let out a smoke wave to make Tashigi look at him in the eye. She stopped struggling getting the message and tenderly calmed her breathing to hear his last words to her. Tashigi, you were like a daughter I never had. Go, live to fight another day. Goodbye, he grinned as the Straw Hats left with Tashigi restrained by Zoro with tears streaming down her sorrow-stricken eyes, and his men saluted him farewell as they too left, but not before saluting the Vice Admiral one last time. The G5 Regiment thanks you for your service in leading us, sir. We will fight another day in your honor. In the name of peace we swear, sir. His men ordered arms as they left their commander to fight the monster. They all were in tears as the Straw Hats and company limped or ran to the Sunny. Smoker grinned and turned back to see the monster a feet away looking at him in anger. Smokey, do you want to die so bad? You are really gonna die for them. Luffy smashed the ground as Smoker floated in his half-Loja state. If I have to, then I must, he declared and charged to the abomination, hitting him repeatedly at point-blank range to at least push back the thing in front of him, but the monster did not even feel Smoker's hits at all as they just collided to his chest. Luffy groaned in disdain, distorted to strands of rubber, and headed right to the exit in a vicious liquid form run to get back on chasing them. Too bad for him, however, as a second later he crashed with the emergency doors that shut the path. His face split into a giant maw that let out a roar that vertebrated against the locked doors, his fists not denting the armored exit at all. You bastard. They got away. The monster yelled in tyrannical rage. He shot out his arm to the Marine to fluster out some rage while he dashed towards him. They both attacked at the same time. He struck Smoker directly into his remaining fist, instantly breaking his only good arm that swung him against the laboratory's wall. Not even an attack, and that finished his last offensive strike. Sorry, Smokey, but you have to die. I would have kept you live. Yet you all decide to help each other and die for nothing, Luffy said, then dashed towards him and grabbed his neck in one hand, making Smoker feel the light of his eyes began to fade into darkness. Out of the blue, as the cold began to sweep his body, he slowly remembered how he met him the first time and how horrible his change was from the smile of innocence to adventure to now having a monstrous grin under an obsidian haki-infused mask covering everything except those red killer eyes and god-awful maw. He did not blame him at all, however, and knew that this was their fault in some way. See ya, Mugiwara. He spoke his last words as Luffy extended his arm. It morphed into a blade as he flexed out that arm in a swing aimed to his torso. The monster's eyes began to flare red. GOMUNO. SHAMSHIR. The flash speed tore Smoker in half as he saw his life in a flash before he splattered the floor in his blood and guts. End of flashback. Luffy shed a tear, hating himself for killing a good Marine and friend after all because of his out-of-control hellish form, remembering his adventures and the one name he always called him by, Mugiwara. That was a little too real, he realized, and upon turning around he saw the man he was talking about. I, Captain Smoker, will capture you in the name of justice. Luffy smiled, seeing him alive as ever wanna fight Smokey. Smoker chuckled to hear such determined words out of a rookie and undesirable nickname. White blow. He fired his smoke fist at the pirate, to which he disappeared. He knows Zoro. Smoker analyzed the flying lad. Gamu Gamu no jet pistol. The punch sent him barreling through buildings and haki. Smoker thought as he crashed to the ground. It seemed this haki thing really existed. He felt it hit his Loja body. Sorry, Smokey. You're too weak to face me. Luffy laughed, to which Smoker went to hunt down the pirate in a rash run. Get back here, Straw Hat. Time passed as Buggy arrived to the town with Alvida searching for Luffy, where he met them and suddenly was shackled in the execution platform to be executed, but just like time he was saved by a mysterious lighting, not by Zoro and Sanji that tried their best but still lacked the speed to get to him in time. Thank you, Roger. He thought of the possible man that could have saved him from the sea stone shackles and his execution. Not like it could kill him, but a head in place is a great way to remain an ace. They left in a hurry as Zoro battled infuriated Tashigi. Sanji picked up speed, and Luffy, who sensed in the nick of time the punch of Smoker. Too slow. Luffy grabbed his fist to slam him on the ground, but he didn't stay down as he jumped to Luffy, who was not playing around this time. Gamu Gamu no Hawk Bazooka. The strike hit the Marine right in his chest that sent him crashing down some houses, like that he put Smoker down. He really was persistent even after 3 strikes to always end up in a pile of rubble. Good to see you trying your best, Smokey. He thought of Smoker's strength as he ran to the Mary before he felt a giant hacky concentration coming closer to him, but knew who this person was before he was running on Luffy's side. Just as he ran, he saw someone was coming closer to him in this raining storm and running to catch up to him. He saw the man wearing a green cloak and heading towards him. Act normal, Luffy set his tone, as to not act like his normal self. Apparently, from what he heard and saw, his father was a major figure and opponent to the world government. Hey Dad, Luffy exclaimed cheerfully as Dragon could not believe his son called him Dad. He felt that he had no right to be called that, but let it be as time was short. The revolutionary leader Sly grinned, lighting flashing his face for the briefest moment. Son, questioned the world. See you at the top, Dragon uttered to Luffy as he jumped to a building, forming a green storm that rocked the town with a smiling Luffy looking at his dad. The rubber man was glad his dad was a badass. Tell Sabo I'll be waiting for a fight. He waved Dragon goodbye as he used Sora to find his ship. Dragon did not wave back, keeping his gaze at him, and somehow felt a little more happier. Thank you, son, for not holding a grudge against me. Your mother is happy you live life to its fullest, the revolutionary leader thought as he viewed his son speed his way to his ship in Nakama. The Straw Hat Pirates were waiting for Luffy to arrive when in a reckless quick manner he splashed the rainy deck, set sail. He ordered as he laid flat on the floor, to which everyone nodded except for the navigator. Where the hell have you been? She screamed, almost tearing Luffy's rubber eardrum. I was fighting Smoker. Sorry, got a little carried away, he confessed as the rest of the crew began to unfurl the sails to escape Logtown as the Marines could not fire their destroyed cannons by the freak storm. Some time later, after losing the Marines' sights, heading out to find the supposed reverse mountain in the Red Line to begin their real adventures in the Grand Line, Luffy was playing with Usopp as he was winning a bet on who could catch the better batch, to which the captain had already reeled in one good amount, cheating by using his haki to knock them out so that they went belly up, and throwing his fishing hook at the right time to snatch it like he actually did caught one in a whip fashion. And Usopp was catching nothing but the tiny minnow that slapped his face with its tail. Damn it, you bastard lied. You are a pretty good fisherman, Usopp claimed as he felt cheated. Luffy grinned as he ate one fish raw. He was cheerful until in his moment of peace he heard his demon began to speak. Look at Nami. Luffy got the message and turned to his right to see her staring out to the sea with her arms leaning closely on Mary's figurehead as she laid silent to the ocean's peacefulness, but his eyes started to shift downwards to look at her body. What a final! Luffy gasped from the shock, and Ultra jumped from his thoughts right to the sky, scaring Usopp, who fell to the water that disturbed Nami's tranquility. Her eyes searched around where the guys were, but now both are gone. At least they caught something, she thought gratefully. Where's Luffy? She looked around to try to find him, and Zoro watched his captain's sudden flight with a stern brow. Dumbass, he murmured as he realized what was the reason for his jump. At the same time, he regretted his natural responsibility to explain to Luffy his emotions. Why does it have to be me? He cursed inside the negative thoughts of his mind that his captain was too dumb to not understand his body. Back to the captain. Luffy was now descending to the Mary at a slow pace. Stupid, dirty thought. He pouted as his inner self began talking. Ha ha ha, come on, don't tell me you don't like those curves. It sarcastically began to tell Luffy his desires for Nami, but Luffy cut him short. Why are you even interested in getting her? You tried to kill her. Luffy got mad at his dark side for the atrocities he committed against Nami and all of his friends, outright killing some just to take over the world. But he guessed it was his fault too for being weak. The being within groaned, that was the past me that wanted world domination. Now I'm your will's essence transformed into a weapon. Put that in the past to fight as one. Is that fine for you, Pirate King? The monster declared in a serious tone towards his crimes, adding a sincere apology and a possible deal, but Luffy smiled now, knowing his demon will never hurt anyone again without his permission. Well, not for now, as he had control over it. He wondered if eating that devil fruit of this timeline was the same for his control. It didn't matter much as that demon was dormant. So do you think I should tell her? He asked his other side. Nah, keep it a secret for now, he grunted as Luffy landed on Mary. In the night, the men were sleeping peacefully in their quarters until the always sleeping swordsman was zonked out of his normal buzz state and heard from his bunk the mind-scaring words Luffy said as he was dreaming about a certain pleasure. Nami, you're, Zoro stared in utter disgust to the bunk above and hatred, to himself for hearing and Luffy for dreaming that to say those disturbing words that will never leave his head even if he died. You didn't hear that, you didn't hear that, you didn't hear that, he repeated in his mind and praying to a god he did not believe in to not make Luffy ask him about that feeling. Still he shivered from the idea till the very next day that stayed in his head like a nail in a coffin as he cringed in each snore. The next morning Luffy walked out of the quarters in a good mood having that dream, but he was confused to why did he dream of him doing something like that to Nami at this point. They didn't. Until you are dumb as always. His inner demon laughed at him for such a naive mimdi, so he was out of the count to ask him along Sanj. As luck would have it, Zoro stepped out very carefully towards the bathroom, taking fast silent steps and looking forwards to his objective, but Luffy felt his presence before he even went out and jogged to him. Yo Zoro. Zoro stopped his stealthy stepping hearing Luffy's voice. Fuck. Luffy laughed at his first mate's reaction while he was walking towards him. He wanted to dip faster than Zeus that evades child support, but he knew how constant he would be. What do you want, Luffy? He sat down on the deck, motioning a seat to Zoro, to which he sat down on the deck. Zoro, I had this dream. Zoro stopped him there. Don't be so colorful when telling me that, okay? Tell me what is important, and that's that. Luffy nodded and moved a little to let Zoro sit beside him. Like he heard nothing from Zoro's warning. He explained in detail the imaginative relation he had with Nami, who caused Zoro to almost vomit from the vivid imagination the captain had as his brain imagined that whole affair. But in the end he asked the worst question that he so sought to not answer. So Zoro, why am I having this dreams with her? At this moment Zoro knew he fucked up from stepping out of the commodity of their quarters. He wanted to tear his ears right about now. I should have slept. Taking out Wado Ikamanji in a flick, he placed the cunning edge of the blade in his chest. No, I need to face this horrible fate. Turning down the option of self-termination, he started to explain. Luffy, that dream you had explains to you that you want Nami by your side as yours and your natural instincts want to. He stuttered cringely. Mate with her, he sketchily said as Luffy stared in amazement at the revelation. Oh okay, he said as Zoro stared dumbfounded at his simple answer but thankful to not be pelted by unnerving question. So when can I do it with her? Zoro's face palmed. I don't know. You figure it out with her. He stood up and ran to the bathroom as if running could prevent the possible future that the crew would be hearing them having sex, leaving a confused Luffy holding his chin in great dismay and configurement. I don't get it. Some time passed and finally the Straw Hats were in front of the mountain that would send them to paradise. The Straw Hats were now going up the mountain in a roller coaster motion. Hold on to the ship. Nami yelled at the top of her lungs as the Mary was gaining speed while Usopp, Sanji, and Zoro held to the ship in a death grip while Luffy was warming up to stop Mary to hit Laboon Gear. Second he dashed with his Zoro and went ahead of the ship, causing a shockwave breaking the speed of sound. Luffy, where you're going? The Straw Hats yelped before being shut up by the shattering wind gust, returning to brace for the end of the climatic peak. As he soared to the peak he saw Laboon hitting the mountain as if to break it apart. Luffy was not a very sentimental type, but seeing the despair and comparing it to his own after doing so many horrid things, he really felt for the creature of gigantic proportions. I know how you feel. He knew how that feeling felt, wanting to wake up from a nightmare that's too real to be real. Just like he saw Ace get killed by Akenu. To just shatter something to see that person again. Focusing back, Luffy went under the launched Mary that had reached the top and began to fall back to the descending current. Grabbed it by revolving his arms around and began to use his Jeppu to slow down the fall. What the hell? Nami was confused to why Luffy would be carrying them instead of letting it follow the downside river. Oi Luffy, what are you planning? Let us ride the river, do. On second thought, good job, she complimented. The captain steadied the ship on his back and settled it to him, holding it really sturdy. Luffy heard his crewmates shout in amazement to their captain's power, then carried the ship far away from the island whale, who began to charge another strike to the mountain. Oh yeah, Vivi, Luffy thought as he left his crew on the water, which minutes later would be eaten whole. He left them by the side to watch Laboon's immense size as he recovered to strike again. Went to the same compartment that last time he went through as he spotted it from afar. He grabbed the hatch door and jumped inside to find himself in Crocus's Laboon dock, but this time instead of being curious about it, he ignored it to sped through the halls to get to the agents of Baroque Works that were wanting to kill the whale for meat. Back to the Straw Hats, they met the ex-doctor of the legendary Pirate King in the most unappelling places after being digested by the whale because a certain someone could not hold his yawn from wanting to sleep in such ordeal that caused Laboon to yawn as well, that sucked them to itself. Crocus, who began to irritate them for the constant ridiculous stupid comments he was teasing them with, until the pirate captain appeared out of nowhere. He had Vivi in one hand struggling while the other held the bat-wielding idiot swinging like crazy to free himself. Hey guys, I found 2 meddlers inside the whale, Luffy said as he was dragging the 2 agents, Mr. 9 and Ms. Wednesday or Akka, Vivi, to settle them down in Mary's deck. More like baggage, dropped them. Nami began to question them. The agents told their mission with great conviction that ticked even Usopp for planning to kill such a majestic creature to eat it. Finally let out by Crocus man-made exit. They docked on the small island to stretch and learn a thing or two of the Grand Line. Sanji tided Mr. 9 with violent pleasure while securing Vivi like a gentleman, touching here and there with a mad Vivi kicking him for the nerve of his perversion as the rest heard Crocus about the story of Laboon shedding tears from Luffy and Usopp to the touching vow the crew made to the whale. The reason the whale inflicted so much damage to itself was because it wanted to see them again. You will Laboon as soon as we conquer the Grand Line and accomplish our dreams. We will bring Brook to see ya, he happily thought when suddenly the whale roared at the mountain in a strong bellow to strike again. Oh no, Laboon is gonna smash himself again, Crocus yelled. The moment Luffy noticed the whale once again trying to smash itself on the mountain, he double-stomped the ground to fly to it, but Luffy stopped it. Hey whale, stop this. You can't shatter the mountain. The whale howled, not listening to the human that stopped its attack, and again it charged Shichigamu. Get the hell out of there, Sanji shouted to his numbskull captain with Usopp and Nami following his call. It's going to crush you, Luffy, they screamed, but Luffy stayed right where he was as the incoming whale was getting closer. The kid is getting squished to death, Mr. 9 muttered. What a foolish kid, Ms. Wednesday added as they waited to see the imminent death of pirate who captured them. Crocus was the first to predict his attack. This kid's hacky, almost like Rogers. Then he saw his devil fruit ability Gear 3rd. His crew tilted their head as they heard his new Gear 3rd. They wondered what he would do, ignoring the whale to watch their captain. He took in a long breath and bit his right thumb, blowing into it that expanded his arm to the size of a giant bone balloon. Those who watched this new strategy had their eyes in awe at his abilities, but what he did next even amazed the doctor, who saw almost everything in this world during his stay on the Oro Jackson. Gamu Gamu no Giganto pistol. The fist punched away the whale with ease back to the ocean in one swift motion, causing a water splash as big as Mary, and it took some time before the whale resurfaced, to which Laboon now had a giant blunt injury that bled. The Straw Hats, the Baroque agents, and the doctor watched as Luffy deflated his giant arm back to his normal-sized one while waiting for Laboon to do another attack. How can he do that? They all wondered as the man looked at the whale in a serious gaze. Stop. Before the whale could do anything, it was hit with a massive wave of Conqueror's haki that intimidated the enormous mammal to lay still afloat on the sea. You can't beat me and I don't want to fight you, he stated as somehow the whale understood the man that best it down, so it howled in agreement that made the Straw Hats wonder if Luffy had the ability to hear the mammal. He can hear the voice of all things like Roger, Crocus thought as Luffy made the promise to one day after conquering the Grand Line he will return with Brook to meet once again, as Luffy painted his Jolly Roger on the scarred head of the whale. Finally leaving to the next island with the company the agents. So do you know what's the next island? Nami asked as she saw the uncomfortable faces of the agents. Yes, we are heading to an island called Whiskey Peak, Ms. Wednesday answered as Luffy remembered the place where they were received in a party but was filled with bounty hunters. The welcoming they received by the villagers was unexpected, for instead of screaming bloody murder to scare pirates away, they instead cheered to pirates. That everyone had the ideas it was a trap, in which Luffy decided to give his first order to his first mate. Hey Zoro, he called in a low whisper that brought his attention, going to his captain without talking in the night. Take them down. They are all bounty hunters in this place, expecting us to fall on their trap. Zoro nodded before he was told the challenge: beat them under 10 minutes. I'll be watching this time. Zoro shook his head in understandment to the order given. The party was lit up by everything the bounty hunters had, from the women Sanji was drooling over to the strong alcohol resistance of Nami, which Luffy knew she and Zoro would wake up while he just ate to fuel up for the next battles that were coming up. Luffy woke up after everyone of the village left them sleeping in the tavern, but he knew better as he looked around to not find Zoro here. Instead, using his observation, Luffy saw he was already outside on top of a building with the 100 or so bounty hunters looking at him. The battle is starting. He ran out to Jeppu his way in the sky, where he saw Zoro, who blended in with the crowd who were apparently looking for the ex-bounty hunter. Let's see how far my training has improved him, the captain observed. The enemies gasped in shock to their target, who was just pretending to watch the place where he once was, but they immediately reacted to shoot him on the spot. That resulted in hitting other hunters. Zoro sliced back at his attackers with a little surprise from the extensive training with his captain. Yusashoko Koka, he took out Sandai Kaitsu and Yubashiri in a swift motion, sending out a terrifying killer aura that paralyzed everyone except the number agents. Tatsumaki, the slashing torrent cut a good amount of weaklings, plus destroying anything in its way as the attack kept going on, just like Luffy remembered while still floating in midair. Carrying on, Zoro started to test out his swords normally while the tornado kept going, causing collateral damage. The bounty hunters tried to shoot him or slash him, but Zoro cut them to ribbons or reflected the bullets back at them. And maybe he's too powerful. Luffy thought of how strong he was now compared to his future rivals. That may cause a great problem to his crew, but dismissed it now, having him, Sanji, and Usopp learn at least one type of haki while trying to teach Nami, even though she was having a little harder to tap in that power. But not far from it. Focusing back on the battle, Zoro was now beating Ms. Monday, who struck him in the head, but thanks to his hacky armor the brass knuckles cracked and Zoro took her down. How the hell is he beating us? Mr. 9 said with a slight shivers in his legs, and he's the second mate. Mr. 8 panicked and hearing someone stronger was here quick. Together let's take him down. Zoro on the other hand began to laugh. Let's see you try. The agents went full gallop as Mr. 9 came swinging his metal chain bats, Ms. Wednesday prepared with her peacock strings, and Mr. 8 having his saxophone pointed at the standing-in-place swordsman who was going to perform his onigiri variation in Bima Yonzu. But his captain appears from the sky. He crunched his jaw at seeing his captain so close to his prey. Luffy, they are mine. He screamed as he ran faster than the agents could even see when Luffy just finishes them all with a controlled conqueror's haki, except for Vivi, who stood in awe and shock at the man who did nothing as far as she could see. Luffy tiptoed to the ground. Inside, these guys were really scraps. Before he even turned around, the swordsman bonked him on the head to split the ground into a massive crack. Damn it, Captain, I had... Zoro then grabbed Luffy by the collar to brutally shake him for take out his targets. Sorry, but it was too tempting. He released himself from his first mate's grab to start his speech. He put his left hand on his shoulder and kept him impassive grin. You have increased dramatically your strength, and now that you have control of Busashoko Haki, you can beat most of the guys out there. I'm proud to say that you're my first mate, AMD, possibly the strongest out here on the seas. Luffy explained his deep honor to him. Thanks, Captain, Zoro remarked as they slapped a handshake high-five thing and laughed as they did their stupidness. Vivi, on the other hand, was staring at them like if they were children until the incoming assassins appeared to take her out. The agents arrived with a confidence that annoyed both Luffy and Zoro. Mr. 5 and Ms. Valentine talked to the failed agents about their mission, giving their long-ass speech to which Luffy began to be irritated while they were having their discussion. Igaram of the Royal Arabasta Army won't let you harm Princess Vivi. At this they began attacking effortlessly to the higher-ranking agents, to only be put out of the fight with the two Straw Hat members watching the scene unfold when, "Hey morons, protect the princess." They cringed recognizing that voice. Which Nami? They both thought as they heard her. Zoro, get our ass moving or I'm getting money ut of you. She yelled across the battlefield, to which Zoro cursed her name along, saying she will suffer a very painful death. That of course Nami responded back she didn't care as long as she had her money. But until then, Luffy on the other hand watched as his first mate finished off Mr. 5 with a similar slash he received from Mihawk and knocked out Ms. Valentine with the back blade of his Wado as she was attempting a kilo impact. Meeting the real Vivi was a real relief to Luffy, who was getting tired of her sheet as the Ms. Wednesday persona. I am Princess Vivi from Araspada Kingdom. I humbly ask if you may help us. She bowed her head. That truly defined her great peril because of what Crocodile did. Okay, we'll help, the captain said without hearing any other details. Wait, Luffy, we don't know a thing of who's her enemy. Nami interjected. His immediate response shocked the princess, and she was still unbelieving. You would seriously help someone who was your enemy a couple minutes ago? Vivi asked, skeptical to this possible savior. Well, you sucked at it, so no harm was done for me to hate you. Plus, I like you. This shut those present up as he just laughed to their reactions, with Zoro staring wide-eyed, Nami with a what the fuck face, and Vivi turning a visible shade of red. Luffy laughed at their faces. Shishishi guys, you're funny and all, but let's get serious. First, who's the boss? He asked to Vivi, that tensed up. You can't mean take down Mr. 0, she uttered in a nervous tone. Yeah, he excitedly exclaimed as Zoro thought of his captain's happy-going attitude at anything. You can't beat him, he's untouchable due to his position. He is the pirate crocodile of the 7 royal Shishibukai. When she blurted out the truth, Nami turned a pale white as she imagined the enemy to be faced. Poor Vivi held her mouth from saying such thing. Well, you just said it, Zoro pointed out as Nami was choking Vivi for her slip-up with a shark face that made Vivi repeat I'm sorry as she held a deadpan face. Then this will be easy. Luffy spoke as if it was the easiest thing in the world. That caught even Zoro's attention. Yet he knew better about his captain, especially his power. What do you mean? Vivi asked in confusion. The navigator cheered up and stretched Luffy's cheek. Well, this guy. Nami then released it and grabbed his captain by the ears, stretching his face. Fought the greatest swordsman in the world and equally clashed with him. Vivi was left paralyzed to the truth of Luffy's might. WW had. Not only that, but injured Mihawk, leaving a sizable injury on his body, and it was bleeding, something I couldn't possibly dream of doing. Luffy laughed at his crewmates overpraising. Shut up guys, it was just a... He tilted his head back and forth to how his friends thought of him, but Vivi could not believe the person who can inflate his arm into one of a giant can actual fight at a warlord level. Will you help us, pirate? Igaram pleaded as he was getting closer to the trio. Luffy just smiled. Of course, that way my crew can be stronger. He cheerily accepted. Okay then, but you must repay us in a billion belly. Nami took the chance to gain something from the journey with shinning belly eyes. Luffy tapped her head that shut off her blinding shinning eyes. She can't, Nami. Her country is poor from the ongoing civil war, Luffy answered. Just about Vivi was going to tell Nami that. How do you know of that war? The princess asked, amused. The news coup arrived. It's getting worse in your home village. Basically, he lied, already knowing her situation. Time passed as they woke up, the rest of their crew still resting from the party, preparing a plan to evade any more number agents to assassinate them. So we're now targeted to be killed for knowing the identity of Mr. Zero. What a mess we got ourselves into. But anything for Ten-chan, Sanji happily exclaimed, his pleasure to help her while Usopp was sulking in the ground, all purple from the enemies to come. Princess Sama, I'll be taking my leave now, Igaram signaled as he was ready to leave. Are you sure, Igaram? You can be killed out there, Vivi clarified. Yes, my princess, for I can lure away any hunters going for your head. He embarked to the ship with some dummies becoming a decoy, waving back to the Straw Hats and Vivi before sailing away into the distance. Going aboard Mary, they went to the ship to prepare for the long journey when suddenly an explosion happened that destroyed Igaram's ship into smithereens. Robin Luffy remembered her confession to shooting the ship but without killing the sheepman. Setting back to the present as Nami tried to grab Vivi away from the site with her biting her lower lip until it bled. Setting sail, the Straw Hats left with no further incidents as they left the island-loving pirate scheme to the next island, being engulfed in a mist as the pirates remained on the deck. Everything was calm until a voice spoke. Hey, you should be careful with those rocks up ahead. I got it, Luffy, no worries, Nami answered the voice. Oi, it wasn't me, Luffy said as he looked to the intruder standing on the ship. Nami cringed and slowly looked up to the balcony, then who she was cut off. Nice weather we're having, isn't? Vivi and the rest looked at the source of the voice. Nico Robinaka. Is all Sunday. On the ship stood an unknown person that the Straw Hats did not know who she was except for the captain, who smiled briefly then went serious, and Vivi, who almost snarled at seeing the partner of the man who would destroy her home, her family, her everything. Nami, Usopp, and Zoro were slow to take in the apparition of the mysterious woman. How the hell did she come undetected? So you must be the pirate Straw Hat, Luffy, am I right? Is all Sunday said as she was pointing to the captain. The captain nodded. I am, he assured her. What are you doing here, Ms. All Sunday? Right beside Luffy, Vivi shouted to the invading agent. Robin crossed her legs. Well, I'm here to report the findings of our other agents, and was very amazed to see the poor actions of the base we had. Not only did we find out about your motives, Miss Wednesday, but she also discovered those who will take you to Alabasta, which prove right now that you are under the protection of this rookie pirate with no bounty, Robin said calmly. You killed Igaram, Vivi interrupted abruptly, an action that worked in making everyone to point their weapons at her. Robin got irritated at the crew having her on sights. Would you stop pointing those weapons at me? In a whim, she used her powers to knock out Zoro's sword, Nami's staff, and pushing Sanji and Usopp off the Mary's upper levels, falling to the lower deck. They all shared their shock about what could be a devil fruit power. The problem was what it could actually be. Wait, now that I see she's beautiful, Sanji blurted out, to which Luffy noticed. Gosh, she is. Wait, shut you, demon. Hearing an echo of his Dark Gear's laugh but shunting him out, focusing on Robin, who was motioning her hands to sprout an arm and take Luffy's straw hat. This Robin is much cockier. I kinda hate this evil Robin, yet she is sexy. He saw in slow motion her disembodied hand that slapped his hat from his head and made its way to her hand. So slow, he complained, as every single attack in the lower half of the Grand Line as far up till now seemed like a lame action movie that moved slower than how it looked to him, capable to speed up at the point to break the sound barrier. He expressed his boredom and shrugged his shoulders as it was also, well, boring. So he laxed back his reaction time by letting time flow normally. That now showed Robin using his straw hat cozily. She fixed it onto her hat, slanted just a tad bit. Why are you helping this hopeless princess to save a country you don't even know about? Are you naive or crazy, Straw Hat Luffy? You know you have been targeted by Crocodile to be terminated, right? She laughed a little to Luffy's foolish plan. On the other hand, Luffy flexed his muscle at that manner. She had. It's what's right. I won't let anyone from your organization destroy Vivi's country. You think I would quit just because some warlord is involved? I'll fight anyone, even you, Nico Robin, Luffy proclaimed with a fist raised to her, leaving a shocked expression where once stood an impenetrable poker face. She was aghast at her revealed identity. How did he know? In a second, Luffy used his sword to take his hat back without her noticing. Or should I call you devil child him? He mocked as Ms. All Sunday was even more intrigued by his knowledge of her, plus already having his hat over his head without seeing him move an inch. For the record, those who can touch my hat are my friends. I'm a little mad, but I'll let it go, so please leave before I make you. Luffy used his final gear's telepathic anomalous property that made Robin glance at his eyes for what seemed to her a small eternity, in seeing the destruction of her home island O'Hara and the blood-curdling screams as a beast stood eating the people she once knew faster than they could run. She took in a breath and almost coughed as it was filled with smoke. It felt too real. In the 10th of a second she stared into those eyes. My God, she muttered as the beast twisted its head to see her. That ended the illusion, finally freeing her from the invisible restraint. Robin shook off the jitters and gazed away from Luffy's glare. As you wish, Captain, but before I go, She reached in her pocket to take out an eternal compass leading to another simpler way to get to Alabasta that fell in Luffy's hand, and after a long dialogue that explained that her appearance to them was actually a helping hand rather than assassination, but he just crushed it without thinking it twice. I'm the captain here, so I choose where to go, not you. Nami gasped, seeing him clutch the log and slowly flexing his fingers. No, don't. She freaked alongside Vivi while the rest just remained a little shocked at that. Before anyone could react, everyone felt the utter presence of his hacky show-off burst, including Nico Robin. She sighed. As you wish then. I will be parting to Alabasta, Monkey D. Luffy. See you there. She jumped off the ship as the rest followed her cautiously to just see a giant turtle that served as a perfect stealth vehicle that amazed everyone to see such a weird scene, but Luffy stayed where he stood in silence. He felt rooted to Mary's boards and jittered from his toes and fingers. One message burst out of his brain for using that technique. Kill, K-I-L-L. He slapped himself to brush off that thought. Sadly, he overdid it and he was snapped to his crimson view of a torn-down world. A place he knew all too well. Luffy winced as he heard what he spoke. You may have controlled me in your other timeline, human. But his inner demon spoke in this one. The demon is wanting freedom and you must beat it before you kill your friends in this time frame, Luffy. It ended its message that made Luffy think, what the hell could that mean? It made him hypothesize for some time as he planned a way to not unleash a new devil upon the world. The crew looked at him but dissuaded from interrupting his thoughts. So they all went to do their normal activities, but with an eye on him. Night came instantly as the unwelcome intruder had left with the Straw Hats doing their usual thing, except that Luffy still kept his 3 hacky learners. Users were still learning how to use the other half of the 2 vital defenses in hacky. Come on, Zoro. These are not directions. Everyone laughed as they saw the irony. He couldn't keep observation hacky on. Oi Sanji, think of Nami to get hard. The 2 female members flinched at this, with Nami yelling in her shark face and Vivi blushing to the idea. Usopp, think of Kaya. He got mad. Stop with the jokes. In that tantrum, Usopp had the right push in having his girl use like a mocking motivation tip. He did the impossible. He formed a fist and activated his Busashoko haki that engulfed itself in a jet black color and hit Luffy in the head. Oh www. Hey, you did it. Massaging the lump in his head, but felt overjoyed to his supposed weakest of his nakama to beat Sanji and finding his 2 types of haki. Still needed work, but he came far. Yeah, he exclaimed to finally, after being through Luffy's intense training to know the 2 types of haki. Usopp beat you a row cook. Zoro laughed his eyes out at Sanji's futile sulking to lose at the sniper. Damn you, Sheety Long Nose. He punched the deck. Don't worry, Sanji. It's just that Usopp is more prone to activating his haki, but that does not mean he will be stronger. Luffy had an evil scheme to play his first mate. Most great haki users activate it much later. And they are the stronger fighters. Zoro gulped a little to what his captain was implying, shaking a disgusting thought of him being weaker than Sanji. Luffy held in a laugh to see his pale face at the thought that he may be weaker. Okay guys, relax. They fell down in the deck panting. Sweat was one thing they had a bunch of. Oi Luffy, who taught you this hacky thing? Usopp asked as he was still happy for the feat he just did. Luffy tapped his fists together. A great teacher taught me the basics, and from then on I amplified it to what I can do today, Luffy answered to stop further curiosity of his crew. Let's spar sometime, Captain, Zoro said in full assurance. Luffy clapped his hands at that, finding it very comical. What a good joke, first mate. Everyone oohed at this. Zoro gawked at first, then chuckled at the cocky manner Luffy showed. Now that I know both types of haki, I want to see how far I'm from the teacher. Luffy chuckled. You can't keep focus on your observation, and your Busashoko isn't strong enough to hold my hits or cause me damage, but if you insist, then it will be after saving Vivi's home island. Zoro sighed, but he got it. He needed to practice this skills in real combat. They both high-fived as they left to go to sleep. The next day was the week. They arrived in little garden that contained a lot of supposed extinct animals and other humongous creatures as the crew marveled in the scenery except for the captain. This island looked a hell of a lot like Omania. In that greenery of an island he fought in a state of berserk rage. His friends had to fight him and run from him like if he was. Flashback. The final barrier of the Straw Hat Armada stood in the path of Luffy, a mad creature that yearned to tear his crew apart. Get the fuck out of my way. He barreled through the last defenses that dared to fight back when suddenly giant steps rocked the island. Gabba baba baba jeji edgy edge. Luffy heard the sounds as they got closer to in full swing to tackle him back to the ground. Dory, Broggy, step aside. He sounded off as he stood up from the massive crater left by the smackdown. Kid, you want to kill your own nakama? Do you really think we will let you do that? Snap out of it, Straw Hat. Dory exclaimed to Luffy's monster self, and Broggy prepared his axe for battle. You are becoming the very thing you hated, Straw Hat. Broggy spoke in a saddened tone, to which caused Luffy to stand back up, now radiating a crimson-red light from his obsidian mask. Then goodbye. He beated the mighty giants of Elbaf like nothing, using his culver and gatling. He tore the last line of defense before he could get to the Straw Hats. He glided in the air like an arrow as he made his way to the Straw Hats. End of flashback. I'm sorry guys, he whispered inside his subconscious, forgetting his sense of regret as he pulled a smile to the adventure that was ongoing. To the island. His crew chanted alongside their captain that was hyped to meet this island. This adventure went the same way as the last, with them splitting up into two groups, meeting one side of the giant's peril of their endless battle, the time start and stop that was a volcano's eruption, and the sabotage that almost cost the life of Dory, including the almost-to-be capture of Nami, Vivi, and Zoro, who were held back from freeing Bragi from his wax restraints set by none other than Mr. 3. He had not changed one bit, either strength or intelligence-wise. You Straw Hats are weaker than I predicted. No matter, I have orders to take you all out. The three of them sweat dropped, having been fighting this guy for over 5 minutes, and he had not even struck them once, mostly dodging the wax. Being almost covered in the rainfall of wax, Zoro tried to cut the incoming attack, which half-worked. Fool. You can't cut my hard as steel wax. He boasted a little more to his devil fruit power when Itoroyu Shishi Sansen, using his Busashoko Haki, he blackened his arm and it extended to his Wado to perform the deadly cut that shredded the attack of Mr. 3, to which Luffy came to see the action. Hey 3, heads up. He punched the agent in the face, sending him somersaulting to the forest in an incredible speed that almost knocked him out, but he held on. Mugiwara, how dare you punch me? Attacking the captain, he soon realized his mistake as his candle wall was obliterated into rubble and the barreling fist of Luffy's Gamu Gamu no rifle threw him even farther away. Mr. 3 fell head first to the forest, ending up legs up in comical pose. Stupid baka, I'm supposed to be stronger. He was panting while rubbing his physical reddened face when Luffy appeared in a flash. Still kicking, the pirate was pumping himself by jumping in place. Damn you, you broke my nose. Setting in place back the way it's supposed to be. He yelped like a hurt animal, making Luffy remember his heroic deed. Flashback. The Straw Hats were beaten a second time, all panting in absolute tiredness that the captain's powers have caused them to no longer be able to stand without jittering from the injuries and never-ending cramps, but he still was bouncing, even though he was tired himself. You bastards were taught well by me. Pant. However, you all can't face me. Even Yorinoa bouncing up and down in gear fourth, preparing his Kong gun in a slow manner as he was feeling beat up by Sanji's Diable Jam and Zoro's Daishing. Then Nami's Thunderbolt tempo mysteriously kicked in, causing the unbeatable ex-pirate to belch over to spill a considerable amount of blood that misfired his attack, making a hole in the cave-in they were all caught in. Everyone get the injured and get the hell out now, screamed a terrified yet brave Buggy, who literally everyone paid attention to the fake Shichibukai, picking the fallen fighters with the available Straw Hats that could actually stand. They carried the casualties into the Sunigo and the other allied ships in a hurry. Who said you could leave? Even though his Gear 4th deactivated while he was vomiting the crimson throw-up, he still could keep on kicking. Gear 2nd pushing through his injuries, he speeded up his blood flow, charging at his enemies. Candle Crush while Mr. 3 out of nowhere took things into his hands, literally crushing Luffy between two walls that were amazingly hacky infused that stopped Luffy's momentum along, giving them time to all of them to escape. Unfortunately, Luffy fired his jet pistol aimed at Nami, but being crushed changed his direction to Mr. 3's face. He took it square in the nose. Sheet. He yelped like a girl as he was being taken away by some pirates. You broke my nose. Luffy swept into unconsciousness as he snarled at them and helplessly withered in that stuck position. Flashback end. You whine like a girl. Shut up, Mugiwara. He lashed again without touching Luffy even once. MS. Golden Week was beaten by the overpowered Usopp, who managed to dodge her paint tricks, including those color traps, but Usopp scared her to death with his cockroach boshi that knocked her out in one scare. And a couple rubber bands as well. Usopp, free the others and take out the other agents. Pummeling Mr. 3 in a smack to the ground, he gave the sniper an order, to which Usopp took in as a compliment and as a test. Yosh, Captain Usopp will free the others. He ran into the forest, giving Luffy the chance to beat down Mr. 3. Gamu Gamu no jackhammer. Striking with his stretched out right leg, he hit 3's neck with his heel that ultimately put him to sleep. I should kick his ass for interrupting a fight in that dirty way. But he went to his subconscious to take in the awesome memory of him utilizing the wax armor and impel down to push off the invincible Magellan. I wanna be so cool. His eyes flashed in stars to the yearning to do the duo power-up thanks to Mr. 3 when he heard his crew. Meanwhile, Usopp, you're gonna burn us all. Nami screamed as she feared dying in flames. Zoro, on the other hand, was laughing devilishly. He don't care. Huh, how's that for making me suffer in your debt, witch? Zoro remarked as he saw justice being served on his side. He was loving the facade of the devil melting by the flames of fear. You're gonna get burned to ass. At least I'm free from my demonic contract. He bowed down as Usopp lit up the wax surrounding them with his previous keen boshi that caught the flames, engulfing them in a whim. Out of nowhere, Mr. 5 woke up from his unexpected loss against Usopp, yet this time he did not expect the swordsman to emerge from the gigantic fireball. Santoryu, the bomb man, barely moved a centimeter. Yaki Onigiri. He was cut down along being engulfed in a fiery cut that Zoro shrugged off in an instant. Full shedding his swords, he looked to his back, seeing Vivi and Nami all right. Luffy stood there and watched the events unfold. Boy, was she pissed you left us in the flames. Luffy fell flat to the grass after receiving a right punch to the face. The fact that it hurt was normal, but one little thing happened that Luffy could not believe what he saw and felt at Nami's rage of almost dying, and possibly that it was his fault for leaving them there. She struck the captain with a blackened arm, sending him rolling at Zoro, who easily dodged but still did the trick to hit the rubber man. He didn't even react to his pain. He just sat up from the ground. He slid face first into in surprised shock. "Nami, you have busso shokohaki." He jumped back to his feet and ran to hold her arm. That's when she noticed that her arm was black. It was not strong, but regardless it was armor on her skin, which made him flip in happiness at her will manifestation. She gawked at the feet, but not like Luffy. "Yes, you did it." He celebrated as she too got happy, and eventually that feeling spread to his other crew members. That followed in the uproar when Luffy stopped jumping around and his child glee to change into his mature side. Unconsciously, he started to soothingly touch her arm, to drag his hands into hers that was still haki infused. Stealthily, he fondled her fingers. It got weird to her when she felt the tips of his fingers. "Luffy, what are you?" SHSHSH. Her captain shut her up softly as he unnoticeably kissed her hand that made a pleasant shiver course through her body. She had no idea what to do in this situation. She would never, ever believe Luffy was capable to do this kind of affection, then blushed as she felt the lingering kiss that is embarrassing all by itself, hoping no one saw that, but the cunning swordsman saw the act. "Oh, come on, really now?" He feared the worst fate was happening. His captain having close relations with the witch. He knew something was creeping on his mind. "Iuwa, get off me." He accidentally screamed, that caught the others celebrating members their attention and made Nami to turn a radish red that made her punch the hell off Luffy's block to again send him head over heels to the forest, as Zoro was now running to the ship in search of the lake to drown the hellish future, to whom Sanji took in suspicion, to why Marimo would scream bloody murder, and why Luffy was hit by his Nami Swan. Yet he had more important matters to discuss. "Nami Swan, I'm back with good news." He talked to the rest, explaining his absence. Sanji thoroughly explained the mat he laid on Baroque Works' eyes on the sky. "So we have a cover against Baroque Works now that they think we're dead?" Usopp questioned. "That's perfect. They will never expect us." Vivi cheered by hugging Sanji, who was heart-stricken, holding in a nosebleed, feeling her body, but Nami still had a doubt. "That's not the issue," she told them all. "What is the problem is how are we getting out now, knowing we need years for the damn compass thing to reset?" Then Sanji showed her the eternal compass to Alabasta. "That's why I scavenged this." He held proudly the object as the two women jumped to him in joy that made him the happiest man in that moment. Going to stop the war. The crew were diddly-daddling as they prepared to leave the island, saying their goodbyes, and going through a giant goldfish thanks to the mighty power of the Elbaf warriors. "See ya, Straw Hats," both yelled as they farewelled their human friends to Alabasta. "Yeah," the crew responded to Luffy's call as they sailed into the ocean, heading to the next destination with a sight out of the blue. Literally, as a gigantic goldfish came from the ocean and ate them, only to be torn apart by the shattering force of the dueling giants. That's when they truly said farewell to those giants. Hours later, the crew began to relax as they were heading to Alabasta, with Zoro training his haki alongside Sanji, Usopp and Luffy fishing and something to eat, and Vivi staring to the direction of her home. Everything was peaceful and clear to the Straw Hat captain, who paid attention to his fishing until he heard forced steps coming from the deck. In a flash, he remembered what had happened here. The day he was in today is the event where Nami gets sick. This memo sent him fast on his feet to run over to his navigator. In a few seconds later, Nami was stumbling in the upper deck to ultimately fall. That made Luffy react, using his gear second to grab her before she fell onto the deck. "Oi, Nami." The rest of the crew members got scared at this and ran to meet the fallen navigator. "Nami Swan, what's wrong, my love?" Sanji boasted as he was worried to seeing his Melorine in what appeared like a sickened state. "So the witch is sick." Zoro spoke as he peeled one eye open, unamused. "Oi, Marimo, you better stop calling my beautiful angel that. Make me curl ly brows." They jumped to intersect each other until Vivi slapped them down with her peacock chains. "Shut up, guys, and carry her to the girls' room," she commanded to the two brawlers that settled down, seeing her serious, intrigued gesture. But before they could do anything, Luffy picked her up bridal style and went to her room. "Hey, that's my job, Gamu bastard," Sanji complained, having his Melorine be carried by another man, and wanted to kick his ass until he saw Zoro wearing a 1000 stare while facing the direction Luffy went. "What's wrong? Lost?" Sanji mocked him, receiving no comment as he went to sleep in one of the corners of Mary's upper deck, internally cringing no as he held onto his sanity away from his nightmare he had to share with the underdeveloped captain. Inside her room, Vivi measured her fever while Usopp and Sanji entered to see Luffy worried. Not acting or smiling stupidly, absolute worry in his all of the sudden mature face. "This is bad, very bad. Her temperature is on the roof. She's sick." Luffy exulted in a sad acknowledgement. Don't you see her reddened face? Vivi reprimanded to his stupidity. Sorry, it's just that I've never been sick before, he said while pouting like a sad puppy. What in heaven? How can you never get sick? She questioned as she could not believe the captain. Well, Vivi, I haven't either, so have I, dear Vivi. Ch1, the two crew members answered in their respective ways. You gotta be kidding me. Just so you know, it's bad, she said, leaving the rest perplexed. Don't really know, sorry, they said in a monotone voice as being great in immunodeficiency. If this keeps on, she could die. Revealing this fact, Sanji cried in a comical waterfalls while Usopp ran in circles babbling nonsense. Shut you jerks. Luffy was short-tempered now and wanted Nami to have all the peace he could get her that left, thinking the Straw Hats, when did he grow up? Vivi, I want you to ask Nami the directions. Vivi nodded. Sanji, make specialty that can in some way help calm her fever. He too nodded in approval and almost practically flew to the door until he stopped to hear more. Usopp, tell Zoro to wake up and keep the Mary secure at all times. And if he refuses, tell him I'll kick his ass. I'm serious. The sniper shivered but ran out to look out while Sanji and Vivi were leaving too until Vivi turned back. What are you gonna do, Luffy? She asked sincerely. I'm staying by her side, he muttered. An enraged Sanji crunched in hate. Oi, you shitty, go. Leave now, he answered in a never-heard tone that the cook backed away, including the curious Vivi that also was stricken to his change. Finally, as they left to do the orders they were given, Luffy stared at Nami, who went to sleep from the tiredness. She was bead red, sweating, and inhaling quite fast. His eyes darkened and slowly the straw hat covered his gaze. Seeing her like this brought a scene into his mind that just reminded him how many times he had put her like this. He recalled how he had seen her bleed badly, and the worst part was that he was the one doing it. He almost killed her and hurt her more times than he would like to forget. Why the hell did he not remember this was going to happen? He bit his lip in a snap that split it faster than it began to bleed. A lump in his throat pushed hard against his vocal cords, yet he made out his guilt to words. I'm sorry. In the solace of the room, after the rest of the crewmates left to do Luffy's orders, Nami pretended to go to sleep as Luffy stared at her face that felt like it was burning above the boiling point. She was getting quite irritated. Why is he here looking at me like an idiot? He literally had an indiscernible stare that she could not see any emotion as he inspected the features blemished and red due to the rising fever. That could be blamed to the fact she saw in blurs of smudges. I'm sorry. Out of the blue, he said as his face contorted into one of absolute regret that Nami did not know what the hell he was talking about. Luffy, she wanted to talk to him, seeing this new emotion come out, but also wanted to hear his apology during her sleep cover. I may have said this about 1,000,000 times and still it would never keep me calm. Fry, taking a ragged breath, almost killed you all in the ambers of hate and flesh of the kin of evil. But to you, Nami, I don't know how I can live to see your beautiful face after all I made you go through. He lowered his gaze and slowly regained his sight to the supposedly sleeping Nami. Luffy was tearing up a little to his apology that left Nami in zeros and flash gasped to the awkward things he said. What is he saying? She was cut off instantly after hearing almost killed you all part that shocked her to the core and momentarily took her sickness away at the sound of whimpering coming from Luffy. Can't forgive myself for injuring you mentally and physically at my stupid rage, anger, curse. I'm sorry for everything that happened back in my time, my navigator. Anger, storming off while covering his face to remove his tears. Nami could not believe a man as powerful as him could feel such a thing after seeing all the impossible things he has performed in their journey. She was dreaming, right? My time? What did he mean with that? She thought to the possible things he could have mean with the time thing until her head ached, stopping her theories. Better to ask him later, she thought, as now she drifted to sleep. On the door, Luffy exited quietly as he composed himself to have again his signature smile. Boy, everyone doing what I said. Everyone answered with a beck and call. That's great. Now, I'm bored. After his crew fell comically to their backs, they spend their day as usual except for Luffy, who took great care of Nami by trying to get her to smile even though Vivi had already told him she cannot hear or see very well. Luffy, since she can't answer you, the princess tried her best for the 100th time to tell the pirate to stop his silly antics. No, I have a promise to keep. I will make her smile or my name isn't Monkey D. Luffy, doing his chopstick dance that included his face paint with the kanji of meat in his forehead, as he once again began to sing his dumb song to Nami. Sometime later, Luffy was tired after doing all that till finally he got what he wanted. A slight smile that formed in her weakened state, whom Luffy finally was relieved to see. He washed his face from the paint in the bathroom as he marveled on her smile when suddenly he felt the presence of one of the men he hated the most, Wapol. He began to hear his crewmates talking about a man floating in the distance. Luffy astonishingly remembered the name of one of his failed peons at his disposal among the thousands of his dark empire he made. Flashback. In a failed kidnapping thanks to one of Wapol's men, the Straw Hats were able to save Shirahoshi from being taken by the unparalleled force of Doflamingo and Captain Kidd. Now they were waiting in a meeting in the former headquarters of the Marines. Got him, you all bastards. Luffy growled in rage that a little mistake from a weakling can give his enemies the victory. Whereas that little son of a beach, accidentally sending a killer conqueror's haki that took down 8 men that bled from their noses and having their eyes bloodshot as if their brains exploded. That in fact might as well had. Doflamingo. Report he sounded off as the ex-warlord saw him appear from the doors. He himself stood up. The Straw Hats made it through the underwater fleet with the help of the Sea King Call of the Mermaid Princess because of an unexpected exterior force. One of Wapol's ships got taken over by them, who shot one of our ships that lead to their escape. Sir, he reported in a military voice that was felt all over the room of operations. Wapol turned blue as the blame was put on him. Chess failed to stop Jinbei from taking the helm. He blurted out, rattling his lackey all the blame in a shaky voice. How dare you speak out of turn? Doflamingo prepared his strings to end him right where he stood when suddenly he was stopped by Luffy. I'll take this, Mingo, he murmured to his commander and paced to Wapol that had the I'm so dead face. Luffy was no longer the smiley kid but an angry dictator. Wapol felt like ice. Call this chess guy to stand up, relieved that he wasn't the one getting eaten today. He did as he was told. Chess, get up. Wapol called the jester as he was slowly walking to his doom. The rest of the troopers watched, including the present commanders who were Bonnie, Kid, Beige, Hawkins, and ex-Drake, who already saw and know what happens when you fail the man-monkey D. Luffy. He's dead. Sucks for the janitor who. And I ate before this meeting. Damn it, the mark of death is above him. A merciless leader he has become. They each thought as he was a foot away from death. SS Suriga being grabbed by the neck in a swift move, sealing the fact that Chess was very dead. You let the Straw Hats fucking escape. Punching him in the gut, he tore through the jester's stomach, making a sickening sound with the fist protruding from the back of the poor soul. That Kid and Doflamingo smiled at the punishment in utter malignant glee. For the last time, clown. Luffy's face distorted and began to fall apart, revealing the grotesque maw that no one had seen before. Even more unsettling, those with devil fruit shivered at his eternal grin and reddened neon eyes as if the devils within them were scared of him. Even the fearless Doflamingo and Kid, who liked to see slaughter drip in sweat and fear to the dark presence, and in a turn for the worst, Luffy snapped his jaws on Chess's jugular vein and ripped his neck while still holding the live leaking body of the relived soldier. As the jester drowned in his own blood as the final trickles of it fell on the ground, Luffy grabbed his head and ripped it off his body, including the spine. That everyone in the meeting was silenced to the brutal death of Chess. Bonnie turned bluish-green and the rest were reaffirming why they followed him. Luffy simply lobbed off the head of the jester like trash and let it hit the floor. He shook the inferior's blood from his hands. If anyone fails me again, a simple decapitation is the least of your worries. AMINDERSTOOD. He bellowed in a demonic voice that no one has ever heard before and would not ever want to feel that powerful, ominous sound on themselves. Yes, sir. They all answered the call as Bonnie did her best to hold in the vomit. Beige shuddered to his promise. Ex-Drake became highly motivated to find the Straw Hats. Hawkins sensed the awakened devil, and Kid smiling, including Doflamingo, in approval of his display of authority. The dictator exhaled a red mist from his maw that slowly was being patched up by assembling skin. Dismissed. Kid, take charge in taking down the resistance on the West Blue. Give orders to Crocodile to take down the resistance in Amazon Lily plus establish a base there. Send Kuma along with Moria to track the revolutionary army that was heading towards Sky Island to just find their location, not to engage. Prepare me a ship to go find the Straw Hats. And looking at the remains of that failure, he flared up in anger. Someone clean this mess up. End of flashback. Smacking his forehead to snap into reality. He went Zoro all the way as he saw Wapol emerging from the waters. Hello, my dearest friends, I came to get the hell out of my sight. The presumed king shut his trap as he felt an anxiety as if the devil was behind him. Then saw the Kid radiating a hate so extreme he actually backed off for a moment without noticing his natural instincts that kicked in. How rude. There's no. In a whip of smoke, the king was sent flying across the ocean as Luffy's Nakama were struck soundless at the weird yet utter dark mood of him made the captain look like a terrifying man to be reckoned with. Not the happy-go-kid pirate they knew. I said, get Uti of here. All of you, he yelled as the enemy ship left to pick their captain up in haste. The Straw Hats, on the other hand, were scared of this Luffy that they remained in silence because, what if they were next? The one to break the silence was Vivi, who peeked her head from the women's room. Oi guys, Nami is awake. At this the guys became happy, cutting the awkward silence except for Zoro, who could not get off an abominable sense of dread out of his very soul. He looked at Luffy's eyes and like that a vision struck his sight with a thing of nightmare fuel. He shivered a little. The captain looked away from him and headed back to Nami in a steady jog. Still, Zoro was left semi-retarded at what the hell he saw. It was like if the world was ending. I heard Kuina screaming. The monster that laughed like, Oi Murimo. Sanji tapped the swordsman's right shoulder. Luffy Zoro ended his inside speech as he turned to face the cook with curly eyebrows. Take care of the ship while I give Nami Swan her dinner. Sanji twirled momentarily. Yeah, just go ahead, lovesick cook. Zoro mocked him annoyingly to provoke Sanji into wanting to fight him, but having bigger things to do he left like a tornado to Nami's room. Zoro on the other hand was analyzing why did he feel scared. Never in his life has he felt the thing he had right now. As if Luffy was the embodiment of evil. Nah, I'll take a nap, he concluded as he took one of his usual naps in the day. Luffy entered the room and kneeled before Nami's sick bed. Looking at her, his very guts boiled seeing her wrestle against the fever and frown in pain. He wanted nothing more but end her pain. Why didn't he see this? He was seeing Nami in pain on a second life. He failed to keep that same promise once again. She was looking even worse than before. Nami was sweating profusely while shivering from the sickness. We need to find a doctor in the next island and now. Luffy shouted as he could not bear Nami's whimpers. Oh, my Nami Swan is suffering horribly at this shitty disease. Sanji was stating the obvious as Luffy facepalmed to his observation. He was close to ripping his own fingers off at her silent pain. Somehow he knew this time around it was worse. How close are we to the next island? Usopp asked, to which Vivi answered, a little more distance and we will arrive. It's a snow country as far as we can see from the weather outside. Snow began to fall after a few moments after they got into the room. Vivi made a decision. The fastest way to get to Alabasta was to heal the remarkable navigator of the next Pirate King. Okay guys, let's start rowing to get Nami help. Full speed ahead. Everyone agreed as they went full speed to the Drum Kingdom. The Going Merry was about to dock somewhere into the natural harbor of the island until in sight beyond the mist there were villagers with weapons in sight. Pirates, go back to the ocean or else. One of them said as the Straw Hats came into the deck, who saw the tallest person who gave the warning. I'm not going to repeat myself, pirates. Dalton yelled at the approaching threat. Please, we need a doctor. We bring no harm. She shouted to the crowd and she began to kneel down, bowing her head to them. Luffy began to do the same and eventually even the proud Zoro joined in, making the villagers less vigilant about a possible raid they could do. The captain wanted to go berserk and beat them all to heal Nami as soon as possible, but deep within him he knew his values must be upheld, especially when a friend was in dire need. There was a silence followed by low murmurs. Finally, the leader came forward and looked friendlier at them. Then come on shore to attend your trouble, Dalton said in full honesty, believing in their claim. Going into shore, the Straw Hats left to the island except for Zoro, who would train in the difficult condition. They met Dalton and learned about the witch, who was the sole remaining doctor who evaded Wapol's ruling. Then the reason to why Wapol left all of the sudden was heard into Luffy. It was mind-stressing. Nami was carried by Usopp, who would lay her down whenever they stopped. They had walked the entire path down to the closest town and took shelter in one of the houses to talk. The selfish king left when a group of pirates appeared that just passed by our country, thankfully evading conflict, but we got the captain's name. Luffy's heart stopped for a moment. Blackbeard. His heart thumped in a very distressing manner similar to his Gear 6, and then it spoke. K kill BB Black CKB eared no WW. He felt his veins move under his skin and the very annoying feeling to laugh like a maniac. It hurt trying to suppress that thing inside him. Shuddering a little remembering his laugh, unknown to him the rest of the crew began to worry to Luffy's sudden behavior change. The captain scratching his neck weirdly as he turned to evade them from seeing his face twitch. Oi Luffy, you alright? Sanji stated sincerely to his captain at seeing a slight tremor in his shoulders. He was about to touch his shoulder to snap him out of it. Without warning, he then snapped his head in a terrifying manner that made everyone flinch. It looked like he snapped his neck. Luffy barely shook his head and composed his face to neutrality to answer his crew. I know who that pirate is. You are all lucky he did not decide to attack this island, because if he did, it would no longer be an island. Luffy spoke with a serious monotone voice that even scared Nami, though thankfully she could no longer hear very well because of her fever was rising. How do you know this pirate? Dalton questioned. He was a former crew member of the Whitebeard Pirates until he killed someone from his nakama and jumped ship. Luffy answered Dalton without a pause, then slammed his fist in a nearby table. He was done talking about a trash pirate, ignoring that issue. I'm gonna take Nami up there. Luffy said this in a conviction that amazed even his crew. No what, ifs, or buts. He was going to take her there and that was that. Usopp dashed to Luffy, shaking the captain by his shoulders and tempted to slap him. Are you nuts, Luffy? It's an enormous distance between the ground to the top of those mountains for someone to climb. The captain shrugged him off playfully and grinned. Who said anything about climbing when I can just fly up there? He grinned. Usopp and Vivi could not believe his words, while Dalton and Sanji were amused at this self-proclaimed feat. So you're saying you can fly up there? Dalton questioned. Yep, look. Jumping a small height, he began to jog in the air, causing him to levitate. That amazed Usopp while making Sanji gawk. That was one hell of a trick. Yoshidi Gamo and your convenient powers, he murmured as he was dropping in sadness on the floor with Vivi patting his back and looking back to the trick Luffy. One of his dreams was gone as he realized he was way better in helping Nami. Vivi was astounded but still had a few doubts. Then go Luffy, take her to that doctor and come back as fast as possible, she said quickly. Luffy nodded very seriously as a life literally depended on him. Picking Nami from the ground, he talked to her softly. He got close to her ear and whispered in the lowest tune he could, Nami, I will take you up there in a flash, so hold on tight. He stretched his hand out to her. Do you trust me? She peeked her head, seeing Luffy taking his coat to put on her. Weakly she struggled but made her hand stick out of her covers and blankets to hold his hand. Luffy, I trust you. Make it quick. Murmuring her wish, she drifted back to her cozy blanket to sleep from the sweeping weakness she had. Luffy just carried her bridal style and went outside to prepare the boost. The rest followed to see him in action. The crew and Dalton followed the captain, who stretched his legs to warm up. He was not wearing anything for the cold, just the same clothes he wears. Okay guys, I'll be seeing you all on the top. He smiled to his crew that got the message loud and clear. They wrapped Nami on his back with a temporary bag sash and secured it to him. Gamu Gamu no Luffy stretched his arms to grab the roofs of 2 houses. Once clinged, he started to walk backwards, stretching his range to the maximum. The houses he grabbed on began to creak, and soon the villagers saw the rubber man in action, being attracted by the commotion. Rocket. Using Jeppu, he was launched in an amazing speed that caused the snow to melt at his move. Usopp fell to his face at this. Sanji dropped his cigarette, and Vivi smiled at the good heart he had plus the massive power he contained. Then it also hit her, the fact that Luffy was also risking his life and saving a country he had no idea about or cared in the slightest. Still, he would save it because a friend was in need. She truly believed Alabasta would be saved like he was doing right now with Nami. Thank you, Luffy-san. I hope one day I can make it up to you, she praised the future young hero of her country that was flying to the mountain. In the air, he kept steady as the force still kept him going. Soaring through the forest, he unintentionally was zooming out to a nasty thought inching in his cerebellum. Blackbeard is moving already in a manner that Ace would find him. I wish I could help him, but I have a crew to care about and adventures I must complete. Losing speed on his way and getting closer to the ground, he used his Jeppu to keep his distance away from the snow below a good amount of meters to be balanced in the drum's highest point. He glided through the island, and closer he got with each kick. He was going to speed up until Nami began to cough too hard for her own good. That startled Luffy, even though he knew she was going to be okay. Concern remained even after thinking it over. He felt a sense of dread on this timeline, like if someone was watching and expected nothing like it was before. After a cough or two, Nami gained the strength to speak to her carrier. Luffy, please hurry, she raspily finished her words quite painfully. He nodded and looked forward where he could vaguely see the mansion in the top of the mountain. He gave a final kick on the air, then skidded his feet on the snow to lose his speed and went full throttle to the doors of the mansion. Thinking about nothing but Nami, he got to the door crevice and went inside. Oi, I need a doctor, he shouted. The sound echoed around the enormous house and reached a future member. The reindeer turned around and searched the sound. He walked on his heavy point to the front doors, where he saw Luffy carrying a sickly Nami that now was burning up by fever. Please help her, Luffy humbly asked the reindeer. Chopper stayed relaxed. Get her inside, human. We can attend her. He cautiously carried Nami off Luffy's arms to where Dr. Kiriha could heal her. Indeed, she was a great doctor, like the villagers told the Straw Hats, for in a couple hours she will be in great shape again. After setting Nami to sleep peacefully, Luffy bowed to her. Arigato, old woe. He tried to apologize until Kiriha kicked the sheet out off him. Who are you calling old kid? Just so you know, I'm in the youth of my body, she presumed. Luffy facepalmed but thanked her for this and the future deed she will perform that greatly benefits his Gear 6's downfall. He smiled, feeling that thing growl at her, tinged with fear for the woman. She didn't have to know that now, though. Luffy, who received the great news, had laid back into a bed as he thought back into the matters about Ace and what he could possibly do. Or in this case, what could he even do? He knew Ace would fight him one way or another, but the outcome would not change. URWEAK. In the murky, sick depths of his head, he could hear banging of that monster he knew so very well. Nakama or less. Go kill Blackbeard. Slapping his head with a vulcanized slap, Luffy shook off that macabre dark side, but he realized with that force of the slap he broke off something from his face. Something he felt utterly familiar. Oh no, it can't be. He heard the clatter of the thing and feared the worst. Did I have that thing on this whole time while in my bed? Going to the back of a medical bed, he checked for the accursed thing. Just like he feared, there remained a motionless carapace that was his greatest fear, Gear 6's half mask. At this object, Luffy grabbed it and shattered the disturbing flesh piece in a million pieces against the farthest wall. Chopper heard this ruckus and went to investigate, to only find Luffy panting in rage. What happened? He asked feebly to the human pirate. No, nothing. Luffy spat a film of blood, to which Chopper's nose picked up. Oi, we need a doctor. He was running around in his hybrid form. This cheered Luffy up into his true persona. You are a doctor, right? Chopper comically froze. Oh yeah, it's nothing, just a small bite in the tongue. Luffy trailed off as he wanted to meet his future nakama. Hey, are you a talking reindeer? Chopper's sweat dropped and shouted, you barely notice. Luffy laughed. What's your name? Chopper was mystified. A human of all things would try to socialize with him, but was glad he did not hear the same thing all the humans called him, monster. I'm Tony Chopper. Luffy grinned. Shishishi. I am Monkey D. Luffy, and one day I will be the king of the pirates. The pirate said in a powerful stance as Chopper hit himself, baying the wall in the completely wrong side. Pirates are bad. He spoke, believing in his own words that Luffy arose from the bed he was sitting. You're wrong in two things. One, you are hiding on the opposite side. That makes you very visible to me. And two, the world has been taught that all pirates are bad in nature, causing everyone to put us in a bad light, and worse off, they're scum who take advantage of people. But Chopper kept hearing, and he himself took a breath to what he was going to say. We are different from them, and instead of being ruthless, we try to help people and live to the fullest by achieving our dreams out in the sea. The reindeer smiled as a dream of his wormed its way into his head. So I want to ask you, Chopper looked at the pirate. Want to join in the adventure? You want me to join your crew? Chopper asked in disbelief that a human would like his company. Yeah, why not? Together as Nakama we could see the world's wonders. Luffy began to dance like a child. Come with me, Chopper, and you will see how true pirates are. Chopper left his hiding place to stand tall towards Luffy. The pirate already knew what he would answer to his invitation, so in anticipation he had an ace under the sleeve. You will be able to taste candy. Something I can truly see you would like, plus you can follow your dream. Chopper gasped. How did you know? Chopper, everyone has dreams, whether they're small or big, but to me I can feel a great dream emanating from your heart, Luffy answered Chopper in full honesty to hide his knowledge of time. So please, Ans. He was interrupted by Dr. Kira, who had entered through the door. Hey kid, your friend will be okay from now on, but she needs a lot of rest. Luffy grinned. Thank you, doctor. She laughed as she remembered something similar she saw in the past. Oh, it's nothing so hard to fix, but that's not what intrigues me. Luffy tilted his head in confusion to not understand what she was implying. It's in the negatives outside, and you came in here like my assistant said, in a perfect condition, maybe even above that. Luffy straightened himself in understanding. Oh yeah, I didn't explain the way I came here. He punched a fist into his other hand, formed into a palm. How did you even climb this mountain without scrapes or bruises? She asked once more. First off, I did not climb the mountain, instead I flew up here. Chopper and Kiraja stared in amazement. Secondly, I am trained into resisting the cold no matter how harsh it is. Chopper gasped as he could not believe a human could train himself against nature, and Kiraja was mystified into being interested in experimentation with the kid. And most importantly, when a Nakama is in danger, I will give my life to save them anytime, he declared to them in great pride. This brought respect from Chopper, who was looking at Luffy in flashing star eyes, and Kira had to respect the young pirate, wanting to ask more. It was cut short unexpectedly when the captain and reindeer picked up the presence of the detestable Wapol. Wapol both said at the same time to the incoming danger they had to face, with Luffy running off in gear second, outclassing Chopper even in his jumping point. He's fast even for a human, Chopper said as he lost sight of Luffy. The pirate captain finally appeared in front of the three idiots that planned to enslave the country once again. It's you again. What the hell are you doing in my kingdom? Wapol said in an authoritative voice. His lackeys were getting ready to fight for the king. Leave this place, big mouth, Luffy exclaimed, seeing the enemies were getting closer, and Chopper reverting into his brain point as Kira appeared into the door. Well, if it's not Wapol himself, this place is now mine, and no one wants to see you or less be part of your kingdom. You hear? She said in the name of the village. This made King Wapol greatly angry at the doctor. Who the hell you think you are, old woman? I'm the rightful king of Drum Kingdom, Wapol, he said while already writing down a new law to his lackeys Chess and Kirimurimo. It really burned Luffy that they even had the stupidity to try to take back this kingdom after they left it in the mercy of Blackbeard. And even worse was that this time they too tried to burn up Chopper's flag as the bastard fought them, and then in desperation he transformed to shoot down the flag in the top of the castle. Luffy gave his speech about a Jolly Roger's importance, to which the unruly king laughed about as he started yaping. So are we gonna fight or what, big mouth? Luffy called him out. The supposed king got even madder, and instead of playing around he mixed his two warriors to form the Chessmarimo combination. They may be my enemies, but so cool, Luffy chanted in his star stare, making Chopper slap him on the back of the head. Get serious. The reindeer was instead nervous of what would happen. Don't worry. Can you take on the fused warrior? Chopper nodded. Yosh. Then I'll put down Wapol. The two fighters got to their fighting stances, starting with the reindeer, who took his arm point form to start his fight with the unskilled Chessmarimo, swinging fist back and forth in an attempt to strike Chopper that resulted in failure, as the little doctor was beating him quite easily. Maybe too easy. It seems the Chopper in this era is more powerful, Luffy stated while dodging the stuff Wapol was throwing at him that came from his gullet. Would you remain still, worm? Make me, big mouth. Luffy socked the king that shut his trap and accidentally making him eat a fired cannonball that soon exploded, leaving him in a smoky defeat while Chopper was finishing his opponent by Kokite Cross. This knocked the guy unconscious face first on the snow, making a perfect scorpion. Chopper, you're cool. Luffy praised his future doctor's skill in combat that made him dance and joy. Well, he's down for the count. And Wap, looking at where once was the detestable king, now there only remained a huge hole in Wapol's figure. Damn it. In the excitement in watching Chopper's battle, he totally forgot to keep an eye on the king, including Kiriha, who left the doors of the castle to get closer watching the duel. KKKYYAA. Nami, Luffy yelled as he ran full throttle after the runaway king to where he heard the sound, just to find her all right by the stairs holding onto a rail looking up where the king ran to. Oi Nami, are you okay? He asked hesitantly. Yeah, I'm okay. But a creepy slender guy appeared in front of me asking me about a room, she said as Luffy propelled himself to the top room to see Chopper facing off the fattened Wapol. He planned to eat all the weapons and use it to win the fight, but thanks to the way the arsenal was, total disrepair. In the battle between them, the pirate captain just in one punch ended him in an anticlimactic way. Gamu Gamu no rifle. Without so much of a sound, he was sent soaring at unprecedented speed that would be impossible even for Kuma's ability. Where he flew could be anyone's guess, but Luffy was content that he freed the Drum Island of its tyrannical king in a matter of minutes, of course with unnecessary talking by his part. Now our work is done. Like I was saying before the reindeer turned around. Will you join me? Luffy asked once more in his authority voice in a sign of respect and honor to have him on the crew, which it truly was. The reindeer gave a quick shout at the surprise that he still remembered. I don't know what to say. Luffy, I say yes, great doctor. Luffy motivated him to do the right choice, which finally broke through his defense in gratitude to the way he protected his father's flag, this time without a jerk interrupting. Then I join you, human. They both laughed as the others were barely arriving through the tram leading to the mountain. Zoro, Sanji, Usopp, Vivi, and some villagers appeared from the tram seeing the duo in the snow, and that's when it went a little downhill. Dalton and the rest sighed in relief and almost absolute gratitude to Luffy, who had saved their kingdom. The captain approached his friends with Chopper right behind him. His Nakama gleeful looked at their captain as he explained the fight, and on the last bit changed the subject to get to present his new FR. A monster, said Usopp, pointing his sling at him, and some villagers did the same, making Chopper grow a little agitated to the weapons that were facing him. But before he could do anything else, Luffy stepped up to their sights. You better put those arms down before I do, he threatened as his eyes actually reflected red veins at the gall of these guys. He's not the same as us, big deal. I'm neither, yet you see something different and immediately want to kill it. Shame on you. The captain spoke, leading to the people to lower their weapons. Luffy brought his crew once again together to tell them briefly of his friend and went inside to find Nami being held down on a bed via restraints until she would get better. But classically, Chopper took the doctorine out of the room and told Kira the news at the wrong place at the wrong time. That of course she did not like one bit, as the Straw Hats were talking about their next move really calm while thinking what else could they give to convince the doctor to let them go. Chopper was running full speed in his brain point, carrying a sled followed by a very angry Kira. Get on if you want to live, he yelled so fast that confused the Straw Hats except for Luffy. So you want to be a pirate? Then you better get the hell out before I get you. At hearing that, the Straw Hats boarded the sled while Chopper went walk point to carry them all the way to the edge, escaping the barrage of weapons until it went free fall. We're going to die, Usopp was screaming, and the girls were doing the same while Sanji, Zora, and Chopper had wide-eye faces staring into the descending sled. But before it began to lose its momentum, the captain went under it and placed his hands to detain the approaching gravity force. Dear second, he adjusted his hand positions and grabbed the bottom of the sled, then began to kick the air, making the descent lovely and safe instead of fast and lethal thanks to the power of Jeppu. The crew relaxed and chanted at their salvation hora for Luffy, Usopp said as the crew began to chant their captain's name in a happy chime. Descending on the Mary, everyone go to meet Chopper, including his ability to speak to all the animals, when Vivi rescued an ice block Karu caused by Zoro, which amazed the crew that they had a friend who was a multi-animal interpreter. Alright guys, let's celebrate for the newest member, and Dr. Luffy, like an announcer, pointed at him. Chopper, even if you say that it doesn't make me happy, you dumb do-am. Hey, he then just danced, not capable to hide his emotions, and the crew just sweat dropped. Shishishishi, he laughed, prompting the start of a party, heading to finally stop Vivi's struggle against the warlord who planned to take over her homeland. The party was a blast that left most tired to the point of sleep deprivation and left immediately to bed, all except for the Straw Hat captain. He was sprawled on the upper deck gazing upon the stars that covered the entire night sky when it finally sunk into him the sleep he needed. Nami's POV. Og my head. Too much drinks, I guess, the navigator panted, sitting on her bed reflecting on how much her life has changed. Arlong is truly gone and my village is free at last. After everything horrible that we suffered, she smiled. One kid took that wall down with ease, thanking the man from the very bottom of her heart as she went to the bathroom. Looking at her face, she was amazed how mature she had gotten compared to her savior. She was, well, older. How can he be so jolly? Asking out loud to the biggest mystery about him. No matter what happened or how it looked like, he would always find a positive outlook on life that she wished to have. Washing her face to get sleepy, she heard a gurgling sound. What's that? Getting a little scared, she went outdoors to find the source of the sounds and found it emerging from a sleeping Luffy. She stopped as his face was contorting into one of desperation. He's having a nightmare. Nami predicted seeing him in that state, then impossibly he began to cry. She grew very startled. Oi Luffy, wake up. She began to slightly shake him, hearing a muffled word. Ace, he said, confusing the navigator, who still saw tears dripping from his cheeks. What could be his nightmare? She thought of putting his head on her thighs and brushing his raven hair to comfort the captain. Luffy POV. Flashback. Explosions, fire, and mayhem surrounded the battlefield of pirates and marines who fought to determine the capture pirate's fate. Porgus Ace, who was shackled in the front of Marineford. Everyone fought to their last breath, no matter what side you are. Something Luffy did not care, and because of his lack of experience he would see the horrors of war. Almost there. Ace. Kizaru appears in front of Luffy. You are too slow. He kicked him all the way to the beginning. Why are you here, Mugiwara? You aren't ready for this stage. Mihawk, send Luffy a giant air attack. I, Vice Admiral Momonga, shall take my pride to take you down in the name of absolute justice. Striking at Luffy, pushing him farther away. He's too weak to do anything. A Vice Admiral confirmed to the weakened Luffy. Ace. The blades of the executioners were getting closer when Sand Blades stopped the death of Ace. Luffy unleashed his Conqueror's Haki to the shock of everyone. You can't protect anyone, Mugiwara. How could Whitebeard believe in you? Kizaru kicked him once again. Ace. Luffy gleefully smiled to his freed brother. You never listened to me. Luffy. He grabbed his brother's hand to get out of the fireball and fight their way out of Marineford. After everything. His brother spoke his dying words and splattered the ground in front of him. Ace, Ace, Ace. He barely made out those words as grief struck him to unconsciousness. End of flashback. Ace. He screamed to the heavens. That caught Nami in a jump scare as she saw Luffy arise in an engulfed terror face she never saw in him before or would ever see in him. He was shuddering horribly, mumbling silent words. Luffy, look at me. Nami grabbed him by the shoulders to see his dead stare to the deck he was sitting on. It's not real, okay? It was a dream, she told the captain, who was not hearing one thing. She then hugged him, hoping to get him to react. The sun was rising from the morning night at the same time Luffy snapped back to normal. It's not real anymore, he murmured as Nami began to hug him. Luffy felt beat up, and with her touch he felt better. Luffy, are you all right? No, not at all, he said while tightening his grip. Do you want to talk about it? She asked, but Luffy stood up immediately. No, he answered, to which Nami wanted to really find out his nightmare. She abstained due to the seriousness visible on Luffy's face that showed great distress over something that actually happened, not just a nightmare. Plus the crew was getting up already, but in a hurried pace. They heard it, she concluded, because his desperate call really blew out one of her eardrums. Impossible for anyone to not hear the sound, except for Zoro. And instead of hiding it or saying it in the sincerest way, they all blurted out the same question. What happened? They yelled in their sleepy faces. Nami Swan, is something wrong? Sanji said stupidly while Chopper and Usopp looked at Nami to get answers. Karu was barely trying to open his eyes, Vivi nowhere to be seen, and Zoro, who inspected his surroundings, to be the only one who noticed the captain jittering a little, meaning that something was very wrong. Guys, go back to sleep. I need to talk to the captain, the second mate commanded the rest, who did what they were told. Luffy has changed from his timeline, from his naive self to a ruthless savior that knows right from wrong, even if it looks horrible or abominable. Through all he has passed, by becoming his inner demon, there still remained his humanity that made him who he was. At first a weakness, he mentally degraded himself for having fear against something that now he could prevent. This time I will save Ace and Whitebeard. He inwardly celebrated his control over his demon, yet he knew that this second demon would try and kill his nakama, but he had a plan that they will now not fail and in effect will make them stronger. Our journey is going faster than I have ever sailed in my time. We could use this to train my crew to be better. And oi Luffy, can we talk? He was interrupted by the first mate. Yeah. Whatcha want? He asked cheerily, that made Zoro's sweat drop after seeing such a fake smile. I know you must set the example of being strong, but you can always talk to any one of us about anything you don't understand or a problem, he said in a friendly tone to the captain, who was still reflecting on the memory. I'm good, Zoro. But thanks, and showing worry to me, he extended his right arm to him, an invitation to fist bump that connected beautifully. Zoro was a little thankful to his mood change, but still wanted to know his trouble. Captain, what is nothing, really just a nightmare, he cut in, stopping Zoro from his question. Fine. One day you will tell me. Luffy, he left to sleep on his favorite corner on the Mary. The captain sat on the Mary's head and thought, this monster is starting to torture me. Eventually it will come out again and try to kill. He slapped his head that bounced like a bubble head. My nakama, he spoke out, feeling the rage of having that atrocity of a form inside of him. This sucks. I promised them that the beast will never hurt them. He cursed his inner demon. At the same time, Sanji was calling him to eat from the kitchen, where everyone was there except for the captain. Oi Luffy, meal is ready. No response. Damn sheety rubber, I'll get him, Sanji, Vivi said. That made Sanji go love mode. Hi Vivi, ch1. He muttered as Zoro made fun of his stupidity and almost began a fight until Nami bumped their heads together while Usopp and Chopper cowered in fear. Leaving the kitchen, she saw Luffy standing on Mary's figurehead. Luffy-san, the food is Shaw. She was getting closer to him but stopped upon hearing a weird semi-laugh that no one had heard until now coming from him. Luffy, what's wrong? She began to walk to him, but in a superhuman jump he flew to the skies. That jump scared her. On the sky, Luffy began to laugh, not his usual friendly one that brought people towards him. It was the despicable roar that killed so many people. Luffy lost a little of his mind control to the monster in him, yet he was regaining control much faster than normal. That got him back to reality. Hate this thing, man. It's biting at my sanity, he stated to himself as he was descending closer to the ship where his Nakama were looking up to Luffy, who casually stopped a foot away from the Mary, plopping into the deck with a thud. With Nami, Usopp, Chopper, and Vivi hugged him. "Oi, are you good?" asked Sanji in a slight face of worry, and the rest had the same question. "Yeah guys, just a thought came into me. Sorry for making a ruckus." They nodded in understanding while watching him go into the kitchen, where they meet a weirder Luffy. It was already like a habit or instinct that the captain would steal everyone's meals to where the crew would prepare traps or other useful things that could halt his meddling hands from stealing everything, but today it was silent. No stealing happened whatsoever. That scared the Straw Hats to think something would bug Luffy to stop his black hole of a stomach. "Luffy-san, why are you so silent? Can you tell us?" Vivi quietly spoke to the captain, who was eating civilized instead of the usual happy mayhem on his and the others' plates. He stopped eating his meal when he was asked this question and stood up to answer sincerely to Vivi in a frightful sentence. Death happened. He walked off saying his 2 words in anger. In the afternoon of the same day, Luffy was now a little bit more relaxed, playing tag with Usopp and Chopper around the ship. That relieved the Straw Hats to see the normal Luffy, making them resume their own agendas. The calm and playful trio started to fish after messing around the Mary and Luffy, who accidentally ate the rations of a week. Sanji got infuriated at this, making them fish for something to eat at dinner. "Oi Luffy, why did you eat everything?" remarked a tired Usopp. "You also ate some." "Yeah, but what me and Chopper ate were scraps, not mouthfuls." He defended himself. That made Luffy pout. "Still, we have something better than the bait," he assured his fishing mates when Vivi came to the deck. "Karu, where are you?" she yelled to find the duck. Then heard muffled squeaks where Luffy and Usopp were without Chopper, who went to the bathroom. She moved their heads as she screamed, seeing his poor duck being used like bait. "Ahcarue. What are you doing to him?" she reprimanded. "Well, we didn't have bait and we needed something to eat, so we were using Karu like bait to attract something like a sea king," Luffy added, but only earned both of them a double head knock, leaving the squawking suspended duck in the air while the 2 fishers fell backwards to the deck. Some time passed as they continued to fish. The rest were still doing the training Luffy enforced them to do, which of course was hack. They were getting better, each one of them, including Chopper, who was getting introduced to it, showing signs of observation hacky. But he still got swatted a handful of times by Nami. "Oh, it hurts, Nami," he whined, while Zoro and Sanji were having a battle using their 2 skills in hacky in perfect affinity, making it look unreal to the others, who stared in awe. Yet to him it was slow, he consciously thought, seeing his crewmates fought. Then he saw both of them charge at him. "Aw, jerks," he laughed internally, preparing his gear second, and dodged the fighters going into the air in a toscond. "Oi guys, what are you trying to hit?" The 2 guys turned their heads slowly, seeing that a beating was unavoidable. Sweat dripping, seeing the powered form of Luffy. "Gamu Gamu no." Zoro cursed. "Fox Shidi Gam." He knocked them off the ship into the water as they floated on their backs on a semi-conscious state twin jet pistol. He laughed, seeing them floating. "You are nuts if you believe you can take me down." He wanted to tease them some more until he heard Karu freaking out, which Usopp raised him up to see him being held onto a makeup-wearing guy. That Luffy cheered up immediately, seeing a great friend once again. Flashback. "Mugi-chan, look at me one more time like a Nakama and let go of this hate." He was viciously attacking his dearest friend along Bartolomeo, Boa Hancock, and Emporio Ivankov that were pushing him back. "Luffy-senpai, don't become your worst nightmare and come back to your friends," Bartolomeo sorrowfully said, seeing the monster his hero had become. "Don't let the sorrow in, Mugiwara boy. We will be here for you," Ivankov boasted while hitting Luffy with his winks. "You ended the misery of many that suffered by the detestable Tenryubito. Come back to us." The Empress expressed extreme worry to his beloved man, to the point she no longer spoke in her usual attitude but in a worried tone of a woman who loved a man. "Move out of my way, weaklings." In a single boost he pushed back the Empress, Ivankov, and Bartolomeo back to the fortress, except for Bon-chan, who jumped back into battle. "Stop, Mugi-chan. We are your Nakama." This broke the demon's illusion that set free the real Luffy, and Bon-chan saw it happening. His friend was locked in there somewhere. But it lasted a second, returning back the abomination move. He barreled the Akama prince through the fortress wall full speed, making a giant hole. "I will beat you thing." Luffy swore at his demon. "Ha, what can you do, fool? I am you." "You're wrong. I will never be you." The mask of Gear 6 cracked, a sizable dent visible to anyone a few meters in range. "You are useless, Mugiwara." Luffy was pushed under the black waves of his hell but was smiling at his plan. End of flashback. Bon-chan. He cheered inside his brain, that went unnoticed by his crew, who also were staring at the guy clinging to Karu. The Akama guy let go of the duck, saying something in a whisper. but was soon drowning due to his devil fruit curse that propelled Luffy to get him up the ship into safety. "Oh, thank you for saving my life, my new dearest friends. I will be grateful to you all forever," he cheerfully said. "So you ate a devil fruit, huh? Call me Bon-chan." Immediately the dumb trio hugged their new friend while Zoro, Sanji, Nami, Karu, and Vivi starred in caution. "In my gratitude I will show you the ability of my main fruit." He stood upright and grabbed Luffy by the collar just to hit him square in the face. That made everyone tense up. "Luffy, you bastard, stop joking around." The Straw Hats were mystified to see their captain in Akama clothes. "That's so cool." The trio yelled in Star's eyes to his devil fruit ability. "I ate the main no my that made me into a copy human." He then began to copy the rest except for Sanji, who refused to be touched by Akama. "Bon-chan, show us some more faces," Chopper asked him, to which he just couldn't refuse. Shifting through his arsenal of disguises, even one that Vivi was shocked to see. "Dad," she consciously thought as Bon-chan finally heard his crew yelling out on the seas, "My friends, it is time to say goodbye, Mr. Chu said, seeing his ship closing in. "No," the dumb trio rejected his farewell. "Do not worry, for a goodbye is nothing to our friendship." They all smiled watching his swan ship go into the distance full speed ahead. "Yes, Mr. Two," a crewmate sounded off. That made the Straw Hats realize one thing: he's Mr. Two. They alarmedly said, to which Luffy just laughed. Then Vivi spoke. "Guys, he had my father's face." She set the truth out. "You mean the King of Alabasta?" Usopp said while Chopper hid on the wrong side of his left leg. "Yes, what could he be doing with my father's face? He could be using it to put his reputation on a bad light, or worse," Zoro answered the enigma. Yet Luffy seemed the most relaxed of all who were present. "Are you even listening to Shitty Rubber?" Sanji asked before Nami would bonk his head. "Yeah, but I don't see the big deal when all that I need to do is beat Crocodile and the people who want to fight." Being honest about the matter, that left his crew astounded to his way of seeing things. "It's not that easy," Nami remarked. "Of course it is. There are about 1 million people who want to fight, so it is the simplest thing ever." He laughed loudly, seeing the faces of his nakama. More importantly, Vivi's, who was amazed at his assuredness. "Luffy, but there are 1 million people who want to protect Alabasta that have experience over battle, and you're saying it's the simplest thing ever?" She restated her worry, looking at him in a serious stare that strangely Luffy took in a grin. "Vivi, with all due respect, your country is organized and has tough warriors, but they are weak compared to the Goa Kingdom where I came from. Plus, taking down more than 1 million people is like a breeze when I use Gear 4th or Gear 5th to subdue them." Luffy described to his friends that marveled on what this forms. "Zoro and Sanji can also take down your people in a non-lethal way. They will have serious injuries, but they can make it." He gave credit to his 2 best fighters, who felt prideful to his gratification of them. "Oi, Sanji. Meet." He ruined the mood. Okay, I'm going," he told his captain as the rest resumed their normal routine. On the rubber man's head, he was excited to feel the presence of his brother Ace in Alabasta, a brother he lost in the war to his weakness, but will never happen for this time around. "I will change this time around." The Going Merry had finally arrived to its destination. The crew prepared to leave, getting their things ready. "Guys, remember the mark we have. It will be the only way we can know for sure we are authentic." They all sounded off in unison to the safe method. They need to not be fooled by Mr. Two's camouflage, except for one person, that is Gamu Gamu. No, the Straw Hats all turned, seeing Karu squeaking like crazy to the captain, who was preparing to jump. "Oi, Luffy, wait. We do not rock it." Vivi and Nami could not finish as the rubber arms did their job excellently. "Just leave him. He can find us back anyway," Zoro announced to the 2 women that wanted to kill the hyperactive man. The crew docked the ship and left to find the rebel camp to stop the civil war. Meanwhile, Luffy soared the winds to the direction of his brother Ace's feet away. He descended slowly to the ground, picking up his speed when Mugiwara. Sheet. Luffy stopped in his tracks, seeing the marine that followed him since Logtown. "Whatcha want, Smokey?" he asked, irritated to his antics to capture him every time they saw each other. "I came to capture you, Mugiwara," he shouted, preparing his jut. "You got lucky, damn pirate." He swung his weapon to Luffy, that began to block it. Strangely enough, the sea stone was not weakening him like it's supposed to. That amazed the marine captain. "That's impossible. You should be on your knees now," he said while jumping back away from his enemy. "Just because people say it's impossible, it does not mean I should just give up and succumb to the ocean's curse, or should I?" Smoker was left speechless to Luffy's impeccable feat, even above some Yonko or admirals. "Sorry, Smokey, but you are still too weak to face me," he chuckled innocently. That sparked Smoker to jump at him in a mad barrage of swings, but was stopped in one single kick. "Gamu Gamu no Yari. Gao." The marine was sent full force through a building by the haki-infused whip. Tashigi sprung out of nowhere to hit the pirate, but he just slapped her sword away. "Go pick Smokey up," he ordered to the swordswoman that left to check on him. "You Marines," he nodded his head in a nod to the time waster. They were in paradise. Stepped on it to find the restaurant where his brother remained. He found him in the center of a crowd that stared into a corpse sitting on the bar. "Move," he told the people as they opened up a breach to allow Luffy to pass through. The people got a little tense to his supposed disrespect towards the dead Ace. "Wake up. Ouch." The man woke up instantly to Luffy's hit. He was sleeping. The crowd fell cartoon style and began to leave, seeing the man. "All right, hey Luffy, I've been looking for you." He hugged his little brother in a firm hold, expressing his happiness to see him all right. Then when he tried to undo the hug, Luffy was steadfast so hard Ace began to feel a little crushed, even though, well, he was a Loja. "Oi Luffy, are you okay?" Luffy remained motionless. That scared Ace a little, but unknown to him about Luffy, he was so glad to see his brother breathing. Not. Flashback. The world stopped in an unexpected memento to the brothers that lay on the battlefield. His brother spoke an apology and farewell as death swooped him from Luffy's arms. Ace's body then fell splattering the ground in his blood that showed his back with the enormous hole that Luffy whimpered in disbelief. Ace. He called for him to open his eyes to watch the smile of his brother on his deathbed. His consciousness snapped and drifted from the cruel reality into blackness. End of flashback. Ace was dumbfounded until he felt water on his chest that made him pull back a little, only for Luffy to maintain his grip. Then looked up to his once lost brother better than ever. Ace. He smiled through the tears that laxed his concern a bit. "You want to talk about it?" He pressed on the matter later. "I want you to meet my crew." Ace smiled, seeing his tears vanish as fast as they came. "Where are they, Luffy?" "Good question." Luffy began to look around. "You lost sight of them?" Ace hit his back in a comical manner. "Nah, I just left them to find you," Luffy answered, then pointed to his left. That somewhat amazed Ace. "Here, follow me." They began to walk where his friends would be. Ace saw his jolly walking and became relieved that he was telling the truth, but still wanted to find out this dream or event that would make him cry. "Luffy, you seriously haven't changed one bit?" "Nope," he said. That made Ace laugh. "Yep, thought so." They continued to walk and entered an alleyway where out of nowhere, some weak guys came out to stop them on their tracks. "Really?" Luffy facepalmed to meet these guys. Their name was the, villains, right? He pushed off the thought of not caring about weaklings not worth their time. Meanwhile, Ace was talking to them. "Look guys, make a hole or else, huh? You think we would give up a chance to capture one of the most powerful people out there that could make you the leader of the group?" Was punched in the gut that acted like a projectile against his own army that at sight of this enormous strength turned tail to flee where they came from. "Oi Luffy, I was planning on having fun." He hit his brother on the head. "Sorry, but I woke up a little grumpy," he excused himself. "Yeah, I should know. Remember the guards of Goa Kingdom?" Luffy laughed at the memory of him and Ace beating the sheet of the guards on behalf of Sabo. "Good times." Ace abruptly stopped his talking about the event, looking to his side where Luffy once was. "Damn it," he yelled, realizing his great mistake to take his eye away from him. Luffy began to run on the rooftops, having told Ace to follow him. "He didn't listen to me, huh?" He chuckled in his mind, sensing his bigger brother was looking around, and went into the right way towards him when suddenly he was stopped by a smoke fist. "Gonna capture you even if it's the last thing I do." "Damn it, Smokey." He sidestepped from the smoke fist that would have become a trap using Zoro. "Can't you leave me for one moment, Smokey?" Luffy gleefully asked the Marine. "After that beat down from you, in the name of justice I will arrest you, pirate." Smoker bellowed. That made Luffy facepalm. He just swept away, kicking the ground. "No time, sorry, Smokey." Zoro, he sped up, going airborne until he started to glide to his nakama who were hiding behind a destroyed building. Unknown to him, the Marines were running to catch him. "Oi guys," he shouts to his crew who have a "get the fuck out of here" expression that the captain just laughed at Luffy. "Lose them." Nami signaled him too late. "Just grab the things and go," Zoro commanded as Luffy got catched up to them and started to run away from the incoming Marine mob. "Get over here, Mugiwara." White out. In an attempt to catch them all, he launched his right fist at them, only to be stopped by fire that made the Marines halt their pursuit. The Straw Hats looked back to watch the 2nd Division commander land in a heap of fire. "What are you doing here, Fire Fist?" Smoker questioned his illogical rescue of the Straw Hats. "Well, having a little brother out there makes a bigger brother worry." He gleamed in a cocky manner, lifting his hat with a fire finger. "Brother, step aside," Pirate Smoker demanded. "Sorry, but I can't do that. A fight between us is pointless, so don't start one," Ace warned his enemy, who went full body smoke and charged at Ace's Loja form, forming a tornado of smoke and fire that people could not believe what they were seeing, including the Straw Hats. "Luffy, who's that guy?" Nami said to the captain, who was walking backwards to watch the fight, including his nakama, who had the same question. "He's my brother." Luffy confessed to his crew that became enlightened to the family tie their captain has with a commander of the Whitebeard Pirates. Holy. They all thought fleeing the scene to the ship. Unexpectedly, Luffy was partying from the group, heading into another route to lose them. "I'll show Ace who's stronger." He planned his scheme, preparing his favorite way of transportation and the ultimate trick inspired by his brother. Gamu Gamu no. Okay, sadly the chapter is over. And if you enjoyed the video, just leave a like and subscribe with post notification, so when the next chapter is ready, you will be notified. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye.